Get ready to experience a game-changing force like no other. They are the architects of action, the powerhouses of execution, and the ultimate accelerators of success. On one side, you have Jim Morris, a master strategist, a business disruptor, and the guy who turns ideas into unstoppable momentum. On the other, producer Rachel, media powerhouse, storytelling genius, and the one who makes sure your brand isn't just seen, but remembered. Together, they are the driving force behind the Impact Effect community. 2 times the knowledge, 2 times the impact. 100% no BS. This is where action happens. Meet the team that doesn't just talk about impact, they ignite it. Jim Morris and producer Rachel.
Let's go. Come on.
Couple glitches. Don't know what happened, but
Let's go.
It's the reality of tech. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jim.
Producer Rachel got me jazzed up this morning. Oh my gosh. Did you guys see that video? Let's go. I'm ready to run through walls, baby. Come on. Woo.
Oh my God, that was exciting. We love that. How are you doing? Good morning. Welcome to Launch Day.
Launch Day Live, Impact Effect community. It's here, baby. It's here. I'm super excited. I mean, at the end of the day, this is so much of what I believe in. This is everything that I wish the world would be in one small package, built for the business professional, built for the entrepreneur, that is going to change the trajectory in the future of your business and your life. Because here's the thing, we care so much about you. And I've been that person, right? I've been that person that didn't have the resource, didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the mentorship, and didn't have someone to go to in the loneliest moments, especially in business. So I'm just excited, Rachel. I'm excited to, start this journey with you and really create positive impact for our community and for the business world. I'm elated. I'm elated. You could probably see it in my face. It's like, let's go. Come on.
Well, for people that don't know, you've been planning this for years, even before me, right? And so this is like a dream that you have had for a really long time. And so we connected and I was just able to bring it to the next level, essentially.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do this alone. As Jim found out, trying to build this out, you get to a certain point where you're just like, I can't, I need help. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we bring our first guest on?
Yeah, I'm fired up for our first guest. He's just been an amazing friend and client and supporter of what we've built, especially over the years. So I'm really excited for you to introduce him. But to dive into where we're at today and where we started. Impact Effect started during COVID with 8 people around a table, a burger joint here in the Gulch in Nashville, Tennessee. And everybody was screwed. It's COVID. We've just poured all our money into our business. We've put everything on the line. There's lines of credit. There's expenses coming in that are fixed, reoccurring, monthly, rents. All these things were hitting us so hard. And the first thing that I did was say, I can't do it alone. And that's when my whole life changed. It's when I started surrounding myself around people. And most importantly, I was starting to show up for people. Because what I realized is if I give, if I show up, if I love on people, if I stay consistent, I check in, I build deep relationships, then there's no losing in life. Whether I never get that funding or I close the company. And in those moments in 2020, I sold the business. I sold the business that I thought I'd run for the rest of my life. And in those moments, it really took courage and community to navigate those harsh times. I mean, let's just be realistic. This is during COVID, right? So at the end of the day, this has been 5 years in the making. We were going to launch a couple different options, different apps, different tech stacks supporting this. And what I realized was I needed to slow down in order to speed up. So we put a pause on a lot of these things. I spent a lot of time with a lot of different people and came across producer Rachel, and it was just an amazing fit. I mean, she's the yin to my yang. The reason why we're on a live and you saw that amazing video and this amazing graphic and the banners and the intros and the graphics and the outro, like, just wait for what you're about to see today, because that's a product of producer Rachel. That's a product of alignment. That's a product of true partnership. And I just respect her so much. I'm so excited to go on this journey. And this really is a culmination of everything that my heart desires. And I'm excited. I mean, I'm going to get emotional here, but we're going to change lives. And this app isn't just an app. There's real life events, in-person events, webinars, courses, resources, white papers, templates, documents. But most importantly, it's Jim Morris and producer Rachel coming to you, looking you in the eye today, telling you that we're here to support you. We're going to pour it all out. And your positive impact isn't just changing the person that you've sold your product to or you serviced. It's changing the person that they're going to tell, that they're going to share with how you show up, how you run your business, and how you love on people. So let's get to launch day live and get this bad boy rolling. Let's go. Woo!
All right, everybody, our first guest, give me 1 second, okay? Everybody bear with me. We're going to get this. I can do this. Ready? All right. Here we go. Ready? Oh my God. I'm ready. Are you ready? Holy cow. I have all the sound effects here. All right. Our first guest mastered high impact real estate media, but he'll tell you his biggest breakthrough came from an unexpected place, the Impact Effect community. How did Jim's mentorship turn his good enough business into a premium client magnet? Let's uncover the story behind his transformation. Please welcome Sam Gordon.
Let's go. Morning.
I love this. I love this. Sam, how you feeling today, brother?
Man, I'm feeling jacked up. I haven't even had coffee yet, Jim.
Here, I'm going to give you a round of applause. Let's see if that works. Oh, wait, it's down low. I'll try again. Ready, Sam? Yay!
Thank you. There we go. Having all kinds of fun.
You got to have fun. And
Absolutely.
one of the things that I think you do so well, Sam, is really show up as yourself and pour into others. One of the things that I wanted to just ask you today and hear it from your heart is, how important is community to you, and what's the outcome been regarding staying in touch with a community and an inner circle in your life and business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because you sit back and you reflect like over your life and different seasons of your life. And actually, I was just talking about this with someone last week, but like how people come in your life, but then they're not in your life anymore, but new people come in your life, and you start to find different niches based on the season of life that you're in. And I think that that's probably the beauty of it is, people carry you through that season. But then seasons change, as we know. And so, you drift apart, which, nothing bad blood or anything like that, but then new people come and start to lift you up and carry you through the different season that you're in. And so, just thinking about that, like community, just in that word, has been a huge part of my life for a long time. I have an education background, as you know, Jim, but that kind of takes on a different role of community, because you're responsible for, impacting children, at different levels of their seasons of life, which can be difficult at times. But, it's just when you really think about that, it's like, I need community to help me through seasons, but I can also be that impact for like the kids when I was in education, or even like, people that I work with now, or just a friend group, or, all these different pods, to really just try to make an impact. And like you said at the beginning, just being who I am. I've learned a lot that's the huge part of it is, and I think you and I have chatted on a podcast before of the masks. Like if you wear a mask, then people don't get to see who you genuinely are. And so they can't help you through whatever it is that you need help with, or you can't provide support to them and make an impact together.
Jim, can you talk to me about like when you first met Sam to where Sam is today and sort of how Impact Community helped him really sort of get to this space? Because I know that you work with him closely. Can you explain that to me and to everybody else?
Yeah, so Sam and I were just talking a little bit about some real estate stuff back and forth, I think in Facebook Messenger. Um, just kind of very minimally connected. I'm assuming Sam was reaching out to me because he can sell his services to me. So that's where it started, right? And we're just kind of messaging back and forth. Then he had come to an event that we put on, and I believe joined the mastermind we launched as well. And that was a lot of information. We poured a lot into that mastermind. We had several speakers come in and guests. So Sam got kind of the water, the fire hydrant of information. And as we continued to build that relationship, Sam showed up. He showed up in his business. He showed up for his community. He was engaging. He was focused on relationships. And it allowed us to have a lot of alignment because we operate and look at the world very similar, right? And in my work around human connection, deep human connection starts with, you either share an experience together, you have heightened senses around emotional things that happen that you align with, or you share your values and beliefs. And Sam and I had a shared experience at Impact Effect Conference and then the mastermind. And then we started working together. And what I've seen Sam do, and Sam's going to laugh because when we first got real deep, I said, man, how long you been doing this business for? He's like, this is like my second year. I'm like, what? Sam, how are you bringing in this much revenue? How are you this intelligent? How do you have this many systems set up? And how are you so tight on your numbers and your analytics and all the things, right? Like you're only 2 years into entrepreneurship. And what I realized was in that moment, Sam has a lot of the tools. Sam is extremely intelligent. You heard him say he was an educator. He taught children, right? Like the beautiful fruit that's going to evolve in our economy and our world. And he was impacting them daily. And what I learned about Sam in that moment was he's an entrepreneur who has all these things going on, but with some focus, some leverage, some resources, Sam absolutely transitioned his business. I mean, I think we did 3.7x in the first month of sales when we started to using some tactics like upselling, and we started to leverage some of those resources, and we started talking through how to show up at networking events, how to ask for business specifically and strategically. And here's the kicker. The reason why I'm so excited about Sam being in our community and Sam being involved in what we do is Sam is the example of active listening and immediate action. I mean, I've told Sam this tons of times, like he's one of my favorite clients because he does the thing, the scary thing, the thing that's hard in the moment, the thing that's uncomfortable, but he keeps showing up and he keeps doing it, testing it, trying it, moving through it, and ultimately making the right decisions. And it all starts with taking action. So where I've seen Sam evolve is in almost every single area of his business. I mean, he's hiring people, he's firing people, he's building systems, he's increasing revenue, he's building standard operating procedures, he's talking about different markets, creating different offers, different solutions for clients. He's speaking on stages, he's running his own workshops, he's presenting. These are all the things that Sam has enacted and took action on. And it's because there's a resource to leverage and utilize, but there's also that feeling of community. And there's also that push and that relationship. And that's my opinion. I'd love to hear Sam.
Well, I was going to say, Sam, tell me about, were you taking messy action? Because I know being a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, it's hard. It's hard to scale. It's hard to hire people. It's hard to put your trust in others. So while you're growing this business, were you fine taking messy action, or was it kind of easier because you knew you had sort of people like Jim to catch you?
Both. C, all of the above. See, that's my education background, right? Um, but in all seriousness, listening to that, and I thanks Jim, but it's like doing the scary thing and taking action, like Jim said. The very first thing that came to mind on that was going to the event. I'll be the first to tell you, I hate them. I it's weird though, because I describe myself as an introverted extrovert. Like, I've got to get familiar with the situation first before I dive in. Once I'm
Me
comfortable,
too. I'm
let's go.
exactly like that too. Yep.
And so those things, like, I don't like them. And I've been talking about going to them and whatever. And then there was one in Nashville, and I live about 30 minutes south. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And so that scary action led to more scary action, but also led to community and mentorship, to where I could build my business even further, because I was building, but I was still young in it. So the growth was because I was new. And so then when I think, going back to the education piece, I switched majors late in the game to get into education because I wanted to coach athletically. And so I ask a lot of people, like, hey, when you think of coach, which, that's kind of a popular word nowadays, like, what do you think of when you think coach? And they give you all of the buzzwords, but if you really strip it down and go back in the old days, a coach was a covered wagon that took people from where they are to where they want to go. And so that's kind of like how I operated in the education world, how I operated athletically coaching, how I operate, kind of in this new platform with, all of the workshops and the stuff that I'm trying to build as well, is taking people from where they are to where they want to go. And so I think that you go back to the community and the impact effect. Like, that's what's helped me is, I can call Jim and say, hey, I am unhappy about this situation, or I'm overanalyzing, which I do a lot. Or, what should I do here? Or, I've got this client that wanted this, and, like, just insert situation here. Right. But I think that that's where the community shows up. Again, if you've surrounded yourself with people who help you through that season, then they take you from where you are to where you want to go. And then now you're where you are point is new. And so then you just continue to build on that. And I think that that's what a lot of people don't understand is when you think coach, you think someone who's going to mentor, someone who's going to provide business advice. And those are all great. Don't get me wrong. But from where you are to where you want to go, you got to have that clear vision. And I have that. And then as I get to a point, like, I don't know, maybe it's the entrepreneur part, but like, I get to a point to where I'm like, I'm kind of burnt out taking photos and videos. Like, I love them. Don't get me wrong. I can be creative, but then it's like, let's add workshops. Let's add this. And I come with all these ideas, and then it's like, that one didn't work. Very similar to the intro, this is a 5-year thing in the making, and you have ideas, but you have to throw them up and then pick and choose. And then again, go from where you are to where you want to go. When you get to that point, go from where you want to go from that point, and then just keep building and never be content with where you're at.
Yeah, I say the goalposts always move. It's never going to be perfect, and there's no end. And so what you said earlier, I picked up on is like when you're having that anxiety, right? When you feel like you're on the merry-go-round, you kind of need people to pull you out. And when, your call with your membership or your coaching calls in a month, that doesn't really help you. You need a community that you can be in live every day to be like, guys, I am feeling this way. I need help with this. I'm having anxiety over this, or this isn't working, or I'm scared. And that is the reason why I got so attracted to partnering with Jim, is because I need a place where I can feel safe to say, like, hey, I tried this, it's not working. Or I'm scared to try this. Who else did this? Where should I go with this? It's like comparing notes behind the scenes with other business owners and solopreneurs. We can't do this life alone. We really can't. I tried for a very long time. And I didn't succeed. And it wasn't until I started reaching out to other people and really growing a community of people and focusing on human connection and not marketing and sales that finally, like, my life completely changed. And I just really want to do that for other people. Jim, I know you feel the same way.
It reminds me of the opportunities that I've let pass me by because I was living in fear and didn't understand the difference amongst those emotions related to excitement and related to fear, right? We've got Dr. Justin coming up, Justin Mosley, on today's live. He just did this amazing TED Talk around those emotions and how they're similar. And I just always think back to that moment where I've missed some opportunities in life, and it was because I didn't have mentorship. I didn't have someone to go to. I didn't feel that someone would openly and honestly tell me and advise me without trying to upsell me into a program. Based on what I went through at that time, looking for mentorship, it was like amazing conversation. And then it was like, pay me $20,000. And I just don't believe we need to take every situation and put it on a P&L or to put it in an invoice. And that's why we want to remove everything that's going to create those negative emotions, that's going to be tough or difficult. If you join the Impact Effect community, it's a monthly auto membership that you can cancel at any time. If it doesn't fit in the first 30 days, we'll give you your money back. Like, this isn't a pitch. This is us inviting you in to what we've worked so hard for and build, so that way you aren't in a situation that Jim Morris was in 6 or 7 years ago and didn't have a resource, didn't have someone to call, didn't have someone to text, didn't have someone to broker a safe channel of communication. So I just think back of those situations and scenarios and realize the opportunities that I've missed. The late nights where I've cried at the dinner table, hands in my eyes, tears in my palms, to where I've taken 3 to 4 days off and just laid in bed because I felt so stuck that I didn't have a solution. I didn't have anybody to go to. And that level of loneliness in your business is real. There's a reason why everybody says it's lonely at the top. Well, Impact Effect is going to change and break that statement. That's a societal norm that I believe is absolute bullshit. It's only lonely at the top if you allow it to be. You have the control over your life. You have the opportunities right now in front of your face. It's up to you to take the invitation or not, right? And it's your decision that you need to make for yourself. So when I think about these situations, I think about Impact Effect. I think about what Sam just shared with us, right? Sam doesn't like going to events. Why is Sam here right now on this live talking about all the amazing things he's done in the last 2 years? Because Sam took action when he was scared. Sam took action when there was fear in mind, and he showed up, and it's helped his business and it's allowed him to evolve. So at the end of the day, I just think do the scary thing, and you don't have to do it alone because we're here to help.
That's incredible. All right. So Sam, I'm going to throw up a little graphic. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in real estate, photography, media, drone work, videos. You do all the things, right? So really quick, let's show everybody that. I feel like Instagram might be the best way to reach.
Yeah, Instagram or Facebook, just search my name, Sam Gordon, or shoot me an email, hello@shootwithsam.com.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for being here, Sam. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you. Let's go make a positive impact, man.
All right. So, deep breaths. I can see our next guest is in queue, but real quick, let's just do like a little throw out to the website. Do you want to throw to the website really quickly? So if people do want to join,
check out impacteffectcommunity.com. We have a massive bonus going on for anybody that joins today. We're only allowing 25 people to take this bonus. Our membership is discounted, so it'll be $600 off the price. Instead of $159, it will be down to $109. And we're going to add 3 bonuses. Producer Rachel and myself will do a full business audit on your business. We'll look at your marketing. We'll look at your sales. We'll look at your media. We'll look at your content. We'll look at your systems, and we'll try to understand and see where there's low-hanging fruit. We'll also do a strategy session with you. So yes, that cost $2,000. I probably should put $5,000. That's the last strategy session I did, but
well, if it's the both of us,
you as well. We're going to give that to you as well.
Exactly.
And then also we're going to give you go high level. We believe that a system in place where you can have flexibility and ease of use is extremely important. So if you're running an email campaign, if you're running an SMS campaign, if you are scheduling your social media content, if you need a landing page, if you need a website, if you need to create calendars and want to limit using Calendly, what happens in Go High Level and what is offered saved me $840 a month. So we want to give that to you for free, and we want to set you up for success. So that's a little taste of what we got rocking and rolling in the Impact Effect community. Like I said, we're only allowing 25 people to apply and join at that rate with those bonuses. And we're just excited to hear from you. We're excited to see if there's a match. We're excited to have a conversation. But most importantly, I'm excited to just invite you into what I've been working on for the last 5 years, what I believe is my life work, what I believe is my passion, my purpose. And I'll tell you one thing, I am ready to pursue it.
That's exciting. For some reason, I've got music playing. Sorry about that. That was so emotional, and I messed it up with high impact music. Darn it. I'll get better. I promise. All right. Our next guest. Can you give me a thumbs up? Tell me you're ready to go. I got you. All right. We're going to do this again, y'all. Here we go. Wish me luck. Oh my God. I love it so much. All right. Our next guest turned 5 years of no into a legacy of now, morphing rejection into championships and coaching legends. Please welcome setback to superpower strategist, Brandon BBurns.
Let's go.
Do it again. And I'm on the stage. There we go. Yay.
Hey, I'm nervous now. You know, when you do an intro that's that good, now the stakes are high. Now people expect something. You should have been like, hey, we got the scrub in the waiting room. He's never really done anything interesting, but we're going to bring him on anyway. Then I'd be more comfortable.
Here's some clapping. I'll get you some clapping. You want some clapping? There we go. Yay.
Oh, I love it. It's like a 90s talk show vibe.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it.
Exactly.
Hey, let me say this really quick, Jim, before we get started. And Rachel, I just want to double click on something you just said while I was in the waiting room there. You said this was your life's passion, your life's purpose, and your life's work that you're inviting people into. And I just want to give you your flowers for that before we even jump into anything else that we do today, because there's a lot of people, especially in this industry, you know, coaching, consulting, communities, that's not why they do it. They do it because it's profitable. They do it because, you know, maybe it can lend them some fame and maybe some notoriety, but very few people do it for the reasons that you're doing it. I think that's what makes this so special. So I just want to start off by saying I appreciate you for being who you are, but doing what you do for the right reasons, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. You're gonna make me tear up, man. It's only like what, 8:30?
Dude, aren't you doing this like the whole day too?
All day long,
Brandon,
man.
don't remind me. Don't remind me. Jim's already crying. We're 30 minutes in. We got this.
It'll be a great day, people.
you know how we are, Brandon, right? Like, we want to talk real, raw truth. We want to be honest, and we want to cut through the noise and quite honestly, the bullshit, right? And this doing a live all day long, the tech, the graphics, the intros, the videos, responding to comments, trying to consume water throughout and survive. You know, it scares the shit out of me. I was telling the team recently that, you know, one of the things that I hate the most is technology issues, right? Like, I love tech. I use the tech stacks. I use the newest, the greatest, the best, whatever. But I hate when stuff goes wrong. It completely throws me off my game because I'm so focused on delivery And you know this, you speak on stages. You were just, doing an SEC tournament or NCAA tournament. Like you're on stages with Eric Thomas. You're working with some of the biggest people in the industry. And at the end of the day, it's like, what's this all for? And how do we show up and how do we create impact? And I think, we've got to do those scary things. So I guess my question to you, Brandon, is you do a lot of scary things. You take a lot of risk. You put yourself in the front lines. You own multiple businesses. You've got your hands in different things. You're around some of the highest paid mentors in this space. You've spoken on stages with them. You've got their cell phone numbers. How has community been impactful for you in your journey?
Man, the thing about community, and the reason why everybody needs to be in a community, and you need coaches around you, you need to learn from people who are beyond you, and you also need to learn peer to peer, is because usually, at least from my experience, what I've found, you don't recognize your potential as clearly and as early as other people will. And so it's funny, you mentioned Eric Thomas. I just told a story not too long ago about him and I were at Pastor Tony Evans' house in Dallas, Texas. This was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even longer than that. It was a minute ago. And we're at his house, and I'm already kind of shocked just to be there because he pretty high up there, like in terms of pastors and stuff. Like he's one of the A-list, like Mount Rushmore dudes. And so he got a couple dollars, and we walk in and everything's bigger in Texas. And so it's this giant entryway, enormous house. We go straight through the kitchen, through the back, and there's this little outdoor area by the pool. We're all sitting around there together. And again, this is unreal to me. I grew up in a 900 square foot house in East Limestone County, Alabama. So I'm just shocked I'm even here, but I'm still super introverted. You said fear, right? I was super scared, super introverted. I didn't order off of a menu at a restaurant by myself till I was 17 years old. I had panic attacks on the first day of college as a 22-year-old, fifth-year senior at Michigan, having to stand up in front of all of 17 people and say, hey, my name's Brandon. I'm studying economics and psychology. So I hated talking to people. So I'm sitting here in the corner just like little old me, not looking at anybody, not making eye contact, not saying a word. And ET says, yeah, I found this kid out of Michigan. He said he wanted to work for me and he wanted to stay behind the scenes and just learn the business side of things. He said he didn't want to speak, and I told him I didn't care. Now I want to slow down a little bit because some people might have missed it. He said, I don't care, not because he didn't care about me, not because he didn't empathize with my anxiety or with what I thought was scary. He didn't care because he knew I had something within me that I did not yet see, nor did I yet believe in. He believed in me way before I believed in me. And the problem is, if you're not in a community of people that are like that, who are willing to push you, who are willing to hold you accountable, who are willing to say, yeah, I know you're scared. I don't care, because you owe it to yourself and everybody around you that's going to be impacted through you and your gift. You owe it to explore that and exploit it to its full potential. You might not ever discover that if you're not in the right rooms.
Wow. That's you just put me in a place of visually seeing that experience, and then knowing you and how we've met and what you've been doing and how you've been impacting people. It's just such another massive reminder around community. Like I can't even imagine the Brandon Burns you just talked about. I can't even imagine someone not impacting people with your energy and your voice, because you can command a room, brother. And you damn well command my attention when we hang out and talk, right? I mean, shit, we'll have an hour meeting and it's 2 hours later. I'm like, all right, we got to go back to work. We got to do some stuff today.
I want
some of the boring work.
I want to talk to Brandon about fear and like doing it anyway, right? Which you kind of mentioned, doing it scared. You've lived a lot in this life already, which is amazing. With your background, I'm in Michigan. So like your whole, right, that whole story is so impactful. Talk to me about doing it scared, right? Like I think a lot of us allow fear to stop us from taking us to the next level. In fact, sometimes we'll just pivot back to our old ways. Talk to me about doing it scared.
Yeah, I think the mentality behind doing it scared is you have to shift your perspective of what you're actually scared of, right? A lot of times we're scared because we don't feel like we have permission to be our fullest selves, or our authentic selves, or we feel like maybe there's a fear of failure. It's funny you mentioned being from Michigan. I just drove from Nashville to Michigan last week, right? About an 8-hour drive, maybe 7.5, maybe 6.5 if you drive the way that I drive.
I was gonna say, I know what you're whipping around there. You ain't driving the speed limit.
But, it was maybe 6:45 if you drive it the way I do. But what's so funny, and Rachel, you'll know this if you're from that area, when you pass from the Ohio to the Michigan border, something very interesting happens, right? In Ohio, there's this perception, and I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But in Ohio, there's this perception that if you're going 1.5 miles an hour over the speed limit, cops are going to pull you over. It is what it is. When you're in Michigan, there's a perception of you can get away with just about anything. Oh, am I frozen? I feel like I'm frozen. Am I back?
We got you. We can see you.
Okay, beautiful. Where'd I leave off?
You get into Michigan.
Yep, you get into Michigan, and there's this perception of you can just do whatever you want, right? Like in Ohio, the speed limit, now here's the thing. The speed limit is 70 on both sides of the state line. It's 70 no matter where you are. But on the Ohio side, everybody's driving like 72. As soon as you cross over into Michigan, everybody's going 90. And if you're not, you're just going to get your doors blown off, right? And what's funny to me is that is life to so many of us. The speed limit, the maximum possible capability is the same, but because in one environment there's a perception of permission, you give yourself the go-ahead to go way harder, to go way, like to do more, to think bigger, to dream more. I think that's what happens to a lot of us. We just have this fear of like, oh, I don't have the permission. You didn't give yourself the blessing to go all in the way that you should. And again, back to Jim's point, that's why you got to be in the right environment. In Michigan, everybody's going 90. It's normal to exploit your full potential, to see how far you can take it. Back on the other side of the border in Ohio, I was like, we don't really do that around here. So again, you got to be in the right rooms. But lastly, to your point about doing it scared, I think you need to become more scared of what will be left on the table than you are about whatever fear of following through with executing on your potential, right? You got to be more scared of going, God, am I capable of going 90, but I'm only going 65 just because of me? That should be scarier than, oh, what happens if I fail? What happens if people judge me? What happens if this doesn't work out? You just got to shift what you're afraid of. Fear is fine if you use it to work for you, not against you.
Let's go. Come on.
That's amazing. Dude. That's incredible. Well, and that analogy too of like, you're an athlete and athletes push themselves. You don't know how far you can go until you push it. And you were rejected numerous times, but you pushed yourself, number one, and then also you pivoted. You pivoted your goals. Do you want to talk about that too? Because I know a lot of times we get so focused, right? We get so focused on a certain outcome. We're not seeing other possibilities in our lives. Can you talk about that and touch on that a little bit?
Rachel, that's such a good question. That's a phenomenal question. And to be honest with you, this is something that I struggled with for many, many years because I had two competing philosophies or ideologies in my head. I said, okay, am I supposed to grab life by the reins and take what I want and make it happen and force things to go my way, even if it's against all odds? Like, that's kind of the alpha mentality that I heard from other speakers. And I was like, is that the right way? Or am I supposed to take the more stoic philosophical approach and say, what's for me is for me, what isn't is not, and I'm going to let life happen and allow it to redirect me as needed? To me, those two ideas were very antithetical to each other, and I didn't know how to reconcile the differences between them. What I realized is that, and I don't want to, I don't want to take us to church, but everything your hands find to do with all your might. That's how you reconcile the two. So if I have a goal, if I have a North Star, that's what I'm going to do. Every single thing that is between me and that goal and that North Star, I'm going to do at the highest level of excellence that I'm possibly capable of. And I'm going to keep doing that. Whatever's directly in front of me, I'm not going to worry about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. What's right in front of me, I'm going to do the best I possibly can at that. And then what will happen will happen. When you do that, the pivots and the redirections come naturally. Because watch this. You mentioned my story as an athlete. I was cut from the team 4 times in 5 years as a gymnast at Michigan, ended up winning 2 Big Ten championships as a coach of the same team I was cut from. Had I not fully went all in on trying to be the best athlete that I could, I would not have the gymnastics IQ or the coaching ability to have been there, done that, to be able to coach and be successful on that side. If I had approached that as, okay, well, I guess life is redirecting me. I guess this isn't for me. Let me stop trying. All of a sudden, the whole thing, the whole story stops there. You never get the head coach inviting me to join the coaching staff because he thinks I'm more valuable there than I am as an athlete. You never get the championships. You never get transitioning from coaching sports to coaching business and so on and so forth. You don't get that if you don't go all in on what's right in front of you. So don't worry about the pivots. Don't worry about some strategic mastermind plan. You ain't smart enough to do that anyway. That's not me insulting you. I'm just saying none of us can see the future. That's not our job to say 30 years from now, here's exactly where I'm going to be. We don't have that type of intelligence. But what we do have the ability to do is everything that our hands find to do with all your might, whatever's right in front of you, go all in.
Man, that come on, let's get him. Come on, get him on stage. Let's go. Dang, Brandon, you're coming in hot today, man. It reminds me of reflection around your purpose and your passion. Like you didn't say, oh, I'm done with gymnastics. I'm done with being in the scene. I'm done with being around high performers, elite athletes. I'm done, being around this school because I didn't get what I wanted in the moment that I wished and wanted it for. And you didn't take that route. And I think a lot of us do. I've taken that route before where I've completely walked away from consulting and found myself back to consulting 3 years later, right? And it was in a different envelope. Mm-hmm. That package, had a different postal sticker on it. And what I've learned in those 3 years allowed me to show up better and be more aligned with how I want to show up and who I want to be. But that business in 2020, Impact Business Solutions, mm-hmm. that was a different consulting firm than what I built and how I operated it in late 23 and early 24. So it's so interesting that you say that because I can relate that back to so many things, right? I can relate that back to everything that I've evolved and done in the last few years to get to this point today, to build impact effect community to where it is my life purpose. It is my life work. This is not a coaching container. I hate that word, right? I don't like containers. I don't like boxes because they're fucking cages. So this isn't a container. This isn't a container for coaching. This is an evolving community of humans that make mistakes, that celebrate massive wins together, that are part of a tribe that's true and honest and real, and a group of people who are seeking to better themselves and the world around them. Like, community to me is the solution for those moments and those times where things aren't flowing perfectly, where you're having double thoughts, where you're having and questioning yourself, is it worth it? Should I keep doing this? And here's the truth, Brandon. I know you've had those thoughts before too. Producer Rachel, I know you've had those thoughts before too. Everybody listening and commenting, Brian Covey, Justin, Hunter, Emily, Elizabeth, Shannon, Joseph, I know you've had those thoughts too. But at the end of the day, it's someone, not something, that pulls you out of that mindset. It's someone that celebrates on those mountaintops with you and keeps you going and keeps you aligned and reminds you, like Brandon Burns said earlier, the potential that those people can see in you when that mirror is foggy, when you look at yourself and can't see it for yourself. No. So I appreciate you so much, man, because you're just such an honest, real guy. And like, I'm just so excited to call you a friend. I'm so excited for you to be part of this community. I'm excited for you to share your knowledge. And I've got one more question for you. I know Rachel probably has a question, but I've got one more before I let Rachel ask.
Let's go.
All the things you've done, the stages you've been on, the cameras you've had in your face, the challenges, the book launches. I mean, you're working with one of the highest paid speakers in the US around motivation and business insight. I mean, I looked him up on a bureau. He's $100,000 for 45 minutes to come speak on your stage. What is the best piece of knowledge that you've acquired in your community with the people you've been around?
Well, I don't know if I could articulate it in like a one-liner principle, but I will tell you this. I think you learn a lot more from watching the I am than listening to the I think. And what I mean by that is when you ask a human being who's this incredibly complex individual to translate what makes them unique and special and successful into something as rudimentary as words, you always lose something in translation. When you actually get around people and you feel their energy and you watch the way they interact with others and you see them honor their craft and pour their entire soul and spirit into what they do and what makes them the best in the world at what they do, that's when you start to learn things. So I don't know exactly what those things are that I could copy and paste to anybody else and just say, hey, here's what I learned from being around ET and Inky and all these guys. But I do know that being in the presence of is far more impactful. That, you know, because as smart as those guys are, they can't just sit here and say, oh, do this, and this, and you'll be where I am. It's like, I don't know if it really works that way. But when you get around people like that, again, to your point of community, that's when things start to change for a variety of reasons. One, you get to see more of the unfiltered, raw transcription of what they're doing. Instead of it being translated into words, you get to see it firsthand. But secondly, you at some point, you just realize, okay, these guys are humans the way that I'm a human, right? Like, I'll never forget the first time I watched ET, and this was 5 years ago at this point. So he was probably making $75K for an hour-long keynote. It wasn't even an hour. He did like 40 minutes. And I was 12 feet on the side of the stage. Mind you, still introverted, still scared, still couldn't speak or articulate myself at all. And I said, man, this guy just made $75,000. My parents have never made more than $60,000 in a year combined. So I said, he just made more than anybody that I've ever met in 40 minutes. I was confused. My mind was just like, what is happening right now? And what happened for me when that happened was, okay, yes, I'm watching how he treats people. I'm watching how he does what he does. I'm watching how he prepares. I'm watching all these different things that I can learn and glean from. But also, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I'm not that good, but I wonder if I'm 10% as good as he is, could I get $7,500? Because that's a pretty good deal, right? And it makes you start to convince yourself and rewire your brain, maybe I can do that too. Because he's not better than me. He's just ahead of me. He's not different. He's a human being the same way that I'm a human being. If I develop myself, can I get close to that? Could I do it my own way? So yeah, listening to the I think is great, but getting around the I am is greater.
But I love that because that walks me right into, like, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Nobody has to walk the same path that any of us walked in our businesses and in our lives. Your path is your own. You made it your own. And I think that there's something so incredible when you can, like, see the forest through the trees, right? Like, you're seeing all these people at a different level than you're at. They weren't always there, right? Like, we really truly have to take the next best step. If you're in alignment and you're really have clarity on your goal and your value and your mission and your vision, you can be in that space. I mean, did you ever imagine you'd be in the space that you are today when back in the day? Like, did you ever think you would be here?
Never. Absolutely not. And I think that's such a good point, because so many of us are trying to construct our lives moving forward when it's only ever going to make sense backwards. Imagine me getting cut from the team, right? That's half of what I talk about now. I wouldn't have any content without Cut to Coach. That was my first keynote ever, was called Cut to Coach. And I've got a million other things I can talk about now, but it's a process of organic and natural development. Without that experience, if everything had gone the way that I wanted it to go and the way that I had so perfectly mapped it out in my head, my story would be so much more boring. Like I would have so much less opportunity because I would have less depth and less substance and less things to actually talk about. I have less wisdom and understanding. And so sometimes we're trying to make sense of stuff in the moment when, again, everything your hands find to do with all your might. Just keep executing at a high level of excellence right here in the moment. And then 5 years from now, you're going to look back and go, oh, I get it. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that when we're in the moment because it sucks. It doesn't feel good when you're in it. Again, that's why you've got to surround yourself with other people that are going to help you keep going. There were times, even when I was an athlete and I was getting cut over and over again, I was getting injured over and over again. You think I wanted to show up to the gym at 6 a.m.? I was perfectly willing to let myself down, 100% willing to let me down. And for as much as I talk about every day means every day and standards and holding yourself accountable and this and that, man, when I was 21 years old and everything sucked in life and everything was falling apart, I could care less about my own standards. I just wanted to get out of there and get some relief from the discomfort that I was feeling. The reason I kept showing up was because I knew if I didn't, one of my teammates or one of my coaches was going to give me a call about 3 seconds later. Say, come on, man, where are you at? That's why you've got to immerse yourself, not just be in it like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's why you have to be immersed in a community. And here's the last thing I'll say, because you brought up the comparison trap, Rachel. As an introvert and somebody with social anxiety, you've never experienced the comparison trap until you have to get on stage after Eric Thomas and Nikki Johnson. That you want to feel horrible about what you do. You want to feel like you are the worst person in the room. Try that on for size. But I think that there's something to be learned there because without putting yourself in those environments, to your point, you'll never figure out how to do it your own way. You know, if all you do is run around saying, I want to be just like Jim, I want to be just like Rachel, I want to be just like this person or that person, you end up becoming a Walmart brand and you just don't want to do that. You know, you end up being the Costco brand of somebody else and nobody wants to pay for that. Nobody wants to see that. But if you get around those people and learn what you can, take what you can take, and then apply it in your own way, but you don't allow that to affect your self-esteem, now you're at a place where we're taking the best of all these influences and mentors, but we're not becoming a carbon copy. And we have the self-awareness to understand that that was never the goal. Me becoming ET was never the goal. Me becoming Inky was never the goal. Me becoming the greatest version of me that I could possibly be. That's the goal. And when you start to get comfortable with that and you're like, you know what? I don't do things the way he does it. I don't do things the way she does it, but I do it my way. And I do it damn well at the way that I do it. Now we're on to something. And that's how you can keep that momentum and stop beating yourself up, comparing yourself to other people.
That's perfect. Go ahead, Jim.
Those micro moments, I call them micro miracle moments because it's so hard to realize in real time when that's happening. So if you can actually become aware of it, if you can be present with it and think and look to the future, knowing that this is the reflection point that you're going to lean on, how you act, how you show up today, what you say, what you do, how you love on people, and also the things you don't do today. Those are the miracle moments that you're going to reflect back on in the future to find who you are, how you show up, and align with stories that are raw, real, honest, and true that are going to move the needle and relate to people because there's not the fluff, right? I remember, one of the first stages I got on and I told a story that another speaker told. And my wife said to me when I got off, and this is how much I love my wife because she keeps it so real. She's like, "What was wrong with your face?" I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't feeling that." She's like, you were sharing a story and it looked like someone was pinching you. Like it was painful. And I was like, it wasn't my story. And that day I said, this is a micro miracle moment. I just embarrassed the shit out of myself on that stage. That was a terrible performance. I didn't sink into the heart. It was all logic. I didn't relate at the level I always relate at because I was telling a story that wasn't mine. And in that moment, I said, this is a micro miracle moment because I am going to reflect on this in the future and look back at this. And here I am sharing it with you.
Yeah.
Like, look at how crazy and ridiculous that is to say out loud. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, here we are talking about this as Rachel and I launched the Impact Effect community and our new app, and all my life work is going into this, and here I am reflecting on a small little fraction of a moment because I was present in that moment and can use it in the future today.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for you to share and just be so real and raw and honest with us during this live today, because this is what Impact Effect community is about. This is the core value of being real and reflecting and sharing, so someone doesn't have to do it the hard way. Someone else doesn't have to go through the things that we've gone through, hoping and wishing that I had Brandon 5 years ago when I first stepped on stage in my community to tell me the truth and to share that story with me, right? How awesome would that have been if this was built then? It wasn't, but it's built now.
Mhm.
And it's built for those entrepreneurs and those business owners to continue moving through life and not having to do it the hard way, spend more time, more energy, and ultimately more money,
Yeah.
right? Let's collaborate and live in the true definition of collaboration. And I'd love to ask you what collaboration means to you before we wrap up, Brandon.
Man. Can I tell you a story to illustrate it?
Let's do it.
I think I might have told you this one before. I don't know if the audience has ever heard it. Some of you might have heard this before, but there's a guy walking down the street and he falls in a hole. Now, the hole's so deep and the walls of this thing are so steep that he scratches, he claws, he tries to climb, but he just can't get out of the thing. I mean, he's stuck. So he starts looking up at the surface. You can see people walking by, and he's trying to ask for help. He's shouting up, hey, come on, somebody help me. Eventually, he sees a doctor walk by up on the surface. He's got his white lab coat on. He shouts up, doctor, I'm stuck down here. Can you do anything to help me? Doctor kind of peers down in there. He's like, man, what in the world? Takes out a pen and a pad from his lab coat, writes out a prescription, tears it off, throws it in the hole. He walks away. The guy's down there. He's looking at this like, man, what in the world is this thing supposed to do for me? I'm stuck. I thought you were going to help me. You didn't do anything. So now he's even more hopeless than he was to begin with. But eventually he looks up. He sees a pastor walk by. He's got his priestly robes on. He shouts up, Father, I'm stuck. Can you help me? Now, the preacher, he's a pastor. He's got to be a little bit more friendly to the guy. So he sits there and talks with him for a few moments. But eventually he's got to go. It's Sunday. He got to go to church. Pulls out a pen and pad from his robes, writes out a prayer, tears it off, throws it in the hole, and walks away. Now the guy's looking around even more hopeless than he started. He said, I'm stuck down here. I've tried everything I can. I've worked hard. I've tried to get out of here. I've asked for help from other people, but nobody who's supposed to be helping me is helping me. And I'm still stuck. So he almost gives up. But in one last ditch effort of desperation, he looks up, sees a friend walking by. He says, hey, man, it's me. I'm stuck down here. Can you help me? Now the friend does something unique. He looks around, assesses the situation, takes a deep breath, and he jumps. Our guy's down there. He says, dude, what are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here. The friend says, yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out. See, when you ask the question about collaboration, it doesn't mean, oh, let me just preach to you. Let me just teach you what I know and act like I'm all high and mighty. That's not collaboration. Collaboration is I've walked the path you've walked or similar before. I know where you are. I empathize with where you are, and I want to be able to help you. That's what collaboration is. It's using our what I call earned wisdom, our past experience, usually that we get through pain, suffering, and sacrifice. And we say, I know a couple of things about a couple of things that might be able to shortcut your process and help you out so you don't have to go through what I went through. Or at the very least, I can help get you on the other side of that a little quickly, a little easier, a little bit more efficiently. So for all of you that are watching right now, I just want you to understand Jim is the friend who jumped back in the hole. That's who Jim is. Jim is offering you an opportunity right now to say, hey, I've been there. I've done that. I've made a bunch of money. I've lost some money. I've made it all back. I've been successful. I've had failures. I've done this. I've done that. I've been through every last litany of life experience that you can possibly imagine, like personal, professional, all of it. And what I want to do is use what I've learned in the process to help you get wherever you want to go faster and with people who can support you because they've actually been there. That's what Jim is doing with the Impact Effect community. And so you owe it to yourself to jump in there. That's what collaboration is all about.
Come on, let's go. What a story, man. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
That was incredible. All right, Brandon, I've got an outro graphic for you. Can you tell people if they want more information about you, where can they go to get that?
You already did my job for me. It's already up on the screen. I am BBurns on all social media platforms. IamBBurns.com will get you to the website as well.
Boom. All right,
That was
brother. I
amazing.
appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. We're excited to have you as part of the community, and we're looking forward to impacting some more lives together, man. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you later this week, bro. I'm excited for us to wrap again.
Catch you in a couple of days, man. Hey, appreciate both of y'all. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Brandon. Whew. Oh my gosh. I have to let my heart settle down from that last part. That was amazing. Like, Jim's the guy that jumped back in the hole. Are you kidding me? That was beautiful. Oh my God. All right.
That was the third one that I've held back so far today.
You're trying to hold back the tears, Jim.
The third tier today.
All right. Our next guest, give me a thumbs up so I know you're ready. All right. Oh, Brian. Oh. All right. Everybody bear with me.
Rachel, you got to tell them what Brian just did because they couldn't see it.
He gave me a thumbs down. He's been messing with me this whole time for the last few days. Like, talk about anxiety. Brian, I'm going to mess up your intro now. Ready? No. Everybody pay attention. Here we go. There's this graphic. I got to get to the fun music. Are you ready? All right. Our next guest decodes the unspoken language of connection, turning subtle cues into sales breakthroughs. Please welcome communication alchemist, Brian Galke.
Let's go.
Uh-oh, I really am. Okay. Okay, I was really trying to stream it to my audience. All of a sudden, I couldn't get back to this page. I was like, oh, crap, I was joking with him. I really was having a problem for a minute.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you so much.
Problem. How are y'all doing this morning?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate you.
I have been messing with poor Rachel today. She's like, are you coming in? I'm like, is today the day?
Don't mess with me, Brian. It's bad enough. I created all these elements that I felt like I had to add to this live show. Why would I make my life easy? But you're going to get an air horn. Ready?
Yes. There we go.
Let's go. Come on.
I'm working out the details. Hey, all right. So, Jim, take it away. I'm going to set up the next clip.
Brian Galke, you've been part of the Impact Effect community now for coming up on 2 years.
Right.
You've spoken at events. You've poured into our members. You've done one-off sessions and workshops with some of our members who you've met at our conferences and our virtuals. What's your experience been, man? You are someone who you go to so many stages, so many different states, so many different industries because your knowledge around facial features, your micro expressions, all the body language stuff you do, there's a place for you in every industry, every business.
Right.
And you are part of multiple groups, masterminds, but what's your experience been with Impact Effect so far?
Well, let's talk first. You were somebody out of the blue, right? And what I mean by that is you contacted Janine about having your event. I didn't know who you were. But what happened over the course of it is you and I got to know each other going into the event in 2023.
Yeah.
But what it was is we got to hang out. So we went, it wasn't just, okay, show up. I expect people show up, hang out in the green room, go home. It was, hey, we're going to do this differently. What we're going to do is I expect the speakers to be in the room with the people, to be approachable, not just you only learn from the guru on stage or, you have to learn. There's people who fly in. They literally never leave the green room. They come out, they talk, they disappear. And you set the ground rules very early that that's not what you wanted. The whole idea was that you want to impact the people that are involved in it. So you had us with vendor booths inside the stadium, or not stadium, but what was it called? The first venue we went to, Wild Horse.
Wild Horse.
Yeah, it's not there anymore, right? Great footage.
66,000 square feet. Yeah, right. It got rebranded. Yes. It's category 10. We were one of the last events in the iconic venue. Yep.
Yeah. So it was really interesting to be an event where that was the expectations and that was what was communicated. It was things like, hey, I need you guys to be at the VIP dinner or breakfast in the morning. Hey, you're going to have lunch with the people that are here. And that's very different from a lot of different events that you go to where it's, okay, your stage time is this. And, just let us know when you get here and let us know when you're going to leave. And that's what really stuck with me, was watching what you were trying to create. And then you and I became friends over the process. We went and we grabbed cigars one night. We kept in touch after the fact. We shared problems we were having, shared successes, challenges, you name it. And that's why when you said, hey, we're going to do it again, or hey, can you come back? And that was the other really unique thing that you did with the first Impact Effect, was people bought a ticket, but they get to come back multiple times to get in more of an intimate environment with the various people. And I always thought that was neat, because that's not something that people normally do. People are like, hey, I have this one event, and then you'll never hear from me again until my next event. Yeah. And so it's really unique that you had the follow-up ones and that you broke it up so people could say, hey, this is the speaker that I liked, and I'll go to that event, because not everybody can attend every single thing. And you kept it within the Nashville community, which I also thought was a really, really cool thing.
It's interesting because we think through business and we think through our ideas and we attach cost to them, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I really wanted to do in building a community is to not think about the expense and let that wrap my mind around the product or the service or the experience that we provide. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have to manage expenses. Of course, profitability is part of this. Of course, setting yourself up for success in the future and where your business is going and where you want it to go is extremely important. I'm not mitigating or saying any of that, but that was a tough decision to do that. And what that decision came down to was me honoring my word for the community, me honoring my word for the people that trusted me to bring the knowledge, bring the speakers, and bring the resources that they needed and wanted. One of the things we did, and one of the things we continue to do in our community, is we talk to everybody. We call them. We call it a hey meeting, Hay. How are you? And that's going to lead us down a path of what's important and on top of mind to discuss with you. And in this moment, in this season, mm-hmm. and we're doing that in the community to every single member. Right. And so what you're talking about at the conference is me not selling out what I believe my heart is telling me is the right thing to do, and keeping my word. And my word to everybody listening and all our members and any of those folks who join and grab hold of the bonus today is to look you in the eyes and tell you that we're going to check in, we're going to call you, and we're going to keep our word. If you have a problem, a challenge, a situation, or if you want to celebrate or give back or teach the community, we're going to work with you to do that. Because at the end of the day, I want to and I will do the things that I believe are important, especially when I sink into my heart and lead that way. One of the things we do for our events, if you're not in the community now and you're just, let me go to an event rather than join the community, I want to check it out. Well, we're going to call you to make sure you align with our event. We're going to call you to make sure it's the best use of your time. And we're also going to do something that Brian Galke taught me. Brian taught me how to understand if someone's auditory, if someone's visual, mm-hmm. or kinesthetic. And that's how people learn and observe. And we're going to run those assessments to every member to ensure that we're creating content that is being able to be received at the level that our members need it, and at the majority level of which how people learn and receive information.
So can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Of course.
Okay. Of course. That's something that we kind of breezed over with Impact Effect. You didn't just throw up a website. You didn't just say, hey, look, I need butts and seats. Whoever buys a ticket. You didn't go the public golf course approach, which is, hey, look, I got tee times. I'm just going to fill them. What you had is people filled it out, but you had a conversation with people before you decided, do they get to come to the event or do I need to refund their money? And that was to curate the right people in the right room, and to also look and see where can you find commonalities behind people. So like, hey, well, I need to introduce this person to that person. So it wasn't just hey, I'm going to put money in my pocket, I'm going to put seats in my butt. As a matter of fact, most people don't know this. Events usually lose money, not make money, right? And you could have gone with the approach of, I have X amount of seats to fill, I'm just going to fill them. But you didn't. You curated the right people in the right room. And that's what you're doing with this event as well, or this community.
It's so important to ensure that there's alignment, because if you come into the Impact Effect community, you join the app, you come to our events, you come to our virtuals, you join the coaching and the teaching sessions, you run through our courses, what you're going to realize is it's not that initial content that allows you to take all the action and get through it. So it's a piece of your business. What happens is it sparks the idea, it sparks the interest, and you need the follow-up. You need the support, and you need the right people around you who you can have conversation with. And for me, I think that's one of the most beautiful things in what I've experienced with this community compared to some other communities and some other events that I've gone to, is this community, this app is curated. Like Rachel and I talk about it all the time. Well, what do we do with the person or the member that's not involved? What do we do with the person or the member that isn't supporting other members or showing up? Well, we call you, because we're going to ask you, does this make sense? Do you need this? What do you need that you're not getting? Not because we need you engaged, not because we want to see the hearts or the likes, but what we want is a curated room where everybody's giving value, so in turn they can gain the value. We believe that you have to give to receive, and that's the community we want to build. So I guess my question to you, Brian, is you've experienced all these communities, you've spoken at all these events, you understand what Impact Effect means to our members. What does it mean to you as a speaker, someone that is an authoritative figure within the community who pours into so many people?
Like everything else, you are who you show up with, right? Your circle of friends, things of that nature. So one of the things as a speaker that I have to look at is the pay worth what goes associated with the event? And just like you had people that bought tickets that you had to go, you know what? Not the right person for this event. I've had to turn down events. So there was one the other day, it was really inauthentic to my brand. So they said, oh, hey, I love what you do. I want you to come on and educate our people. And then they said, oh, well, we want you to talk about AI. And I'm like, but AI is not my area of expertise. But like, yeah, but then, and we want you to send out a few emails to this group and you have to promise you're gonna do all these things. And I realized they weren't trying to make a community. They weren't looking at how can they add value. They were looking like, how can they get customers through the speakers? And that's one of the things, is it's the same thing as what you're doing here, is you have to look at and go, is it authentic to my brand? And I know authentic's a bad 4-letter word for a lot of people, but you really have to look at, on social media, who you're seen with is kind of who you are. And so you could there's several, quote unquote celebrities right now who are going through like almost like a bitter divorce, and people are having to pick one side or the other. So you have to look at the events you go to, meaning the ones you sit in the audience, the ones that you speak at are what other people will associate with you over time. And like I said, you and I became friends after the first one. So for being someone who just was hired in, we hung out, we talked, we had similar situations and so many different things. We had similar people in common. I went out and watched your interview with Brad Lee on dropping bombs, so it was one of those that over time we became friends. And then conversations that took place after the event is what has kept me in this circle. I don't live in Nashville, but a lot of people that I've met out there, I still keep in contact with. I look forward to trips to come back out there, because I'm like, oh, well, I met this person at Impact Effect, and I met this person. If I didn't think that you were a good person, the person sitting on my screen to your right, probably to your left, wouldn't be here, because you reached out to me and said, hey, this is what I want to create. Do you know someone who can help me do it? And I introduced you and Rachel. Now, if I didn't believe in what you're doing, I wouldn't have done that, because I'm with Rachel through another group. And I could have alienated those friends by making a bad choice of saying, oh, I'll just put her with somebody I don't trust. But that wasn't the case. The reason that you two were introduced was you seemed to be in alignment with what you were doing, what you wanted to do, and where you wanted to go. And that was the thing, is if it's kind of, some people do anything for pay or prestige, but what you have to look at is what's the long-term impact. No, and effect on, didn't mean to say that to like pump your brand here, But you do have to look at the impact and what's the long-term effect that goes along with those things. And so that's why I keep coming back out there. It was fun to do the large stages. It was fun to come back in March of 2024 and do the smaller room, where we had the peak sign in the back. And I'll show you, gosh, I'm going to screw up her name, but I'll show you something.
It's just so anybody listening,
Yeah.
Brian is the one that introduced me to producer Rachel based on that level of alignment. And that level of alignment amongst Brian and I came from utilizing what I teach around deep human connection. And Brian is a master at this as well. There's so many things that I learned from Brian around deep human connection. Part of what Brian taught me, I put some of that in my TED Talk. Brian came and watched my TED Talk in Nashville. Brian supported me with that. That Brian was someone I looked to in the audience when I was doing that TED Talk, and it was a calm, trusting, compassionate face that I saw in the audience. And it actually sparked a subconscious thought and a reminder for me to use body language and use my power symbols. And by the time I got off the stage, he had texted another speaker and said, "Look, Jim's listening to us. He's doing the thing, or he's taking the action," because he took a photo of me doing this.
Oops.
Right. So all that to be said, this started with community, this friendship, this deep friendship that I have with Brian, the resources that he's leveraged, the introductions he made, the reason why producer Rachel and myself are business partners today, and happy business partners. I hope I could speak for Rachel too, but like, I'm just so excited to have her on my team. Like, again, I said this when we first started this morning, and we've got to watch that intro video again. But she put together the intro video. She put together the graphics. She set up the live, the links, like all these things that I never would have been able to do. And it started with the relationship I built with Brian through this community to in turn find my next business partner in what is my life work, my passion, and my purpose. Like, I don't take that lightly, and it never would have happened if Impact Effect Community didn't exist.
Agreed. Agree wholeheartedly. And by the way, that I didn't know that part about being in the room, but yeah, can we talk a little bit about how crazy you are? You did Impact Effect, then you had a TED Talk while you're waiting for your second kid to be born any second now. Like, it was one of those things that one of those is tough. 3 of them, you're a little bit crazy, but look at where you are now, right? And a little bit of background.
Brian, Rachel was like, you have a podcast during our break. She's like, you're going to be tired. And she's like,
Brian,
all your meetings tomorrow. And
he literally has booked back-to-back stuff within live day and then has a whole day tomorrow. I was like, you are too much. I don't know where you get the energy from. Brian, show us what you were going to show us. And then I want to react to what you guys said about putting Jim and I together, because I have a story.
So I don't even know if Jim knows this yet, but so Lindley was one of the people who was in the room when we were in March. And she took notes and noticed that in my talk that I talk about, like, I always wear something Batman when I present. So she ended up sending me a card. And I'll tell you, it arrived on one of those days where I was thinking about quitting. Because, so it was back to this event back there. And she wrote a very nice thing that was in it. And there's days when being an entrepreneur, when you don't have the support of a group like what you created. And there's days when you have more bills than you have money. Everybody, look, what people think on social media is just because you're busy is you're making it. And look, that's not the case. Stop believing that. We all struggle at times. It's a roller coaster financially, emotionally, monetarily, you name it. And there was a day I thought, screw it, I'm just going to go back to corporate America. It's a lot easier to know where my paycheck is, where your only concern is work hard enough to not get fired, than it is to chase your passion and do things. And literally right when I was getting ready to wrap it up, that came in the mail. And that came from the event, the follow-up that we did in March of 2024 at that smaller event. So she came to the first event, and then she came back when she knew I was going to be the speaker. And that arrived at a time. That's why it stays on my wall over here next to some things, because there are days when you think about giving up and then you think, well, it impacted this person, it helped their life. And then she took the time out of her life to send it to me.
That is so beautiful. That is so cool. That is so neat. Well, and that speaks to sometimes when you don't believe in yourself, you need someone else to believe in you to get you
I know
across that
someone
finish
that did a
line.
TED talk on that.
It's just it's hard, especially
It
when
is.
you're a solopreneur. Like Brian, you are your business, right?
Mhm.
Like you literally look at people and can
Yeah, you
tell
want to meet the
them.
manager?
Okay. Hi. But yeah, Brian, you did put us together. I'm curious as to what you thought would make us the perfect team. What about the two of us that you were like, I feel like she could be the yin to your yang?
Saw what you had done with the other group, with Rhonda and everyone else is, so Jim is good at ideas and he needs somebody else to help also put it together. So he comes up with the idea and things like that. And I would say it's like putting the architect with the general contractor, if that makes sense. So Jim comes up and he's like, this is what I'm looking for. I need somebody who can help create these things that I'm not good at. So it was good enough to know what's his area of expertise and what's the area that he's not good at. And that happened to be your area of expertise, right? Like putting all the graphics together, putting things in, being willing to also make phone calls. You and I met randomly because you were going around with Rhonda and to do her podcast with her. And then I saw the way you cut up her podcast and I'm like, oh, this is really good. And then you and I started working on something different and you kept putting out graphics and everything and just like able to whip it out. So when a lot of people come up with ideas and I'm one of those, I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be a great idea. And our crap on execution, you were an executor, right? And Jim needed somebody when he was talking. It's like, I need somebody that when I need this, and I need graphics, I need to be able to cut things up. So it was just looking at skill sets of what met what Jim was looking for. And that was my experience with you.
Well, and I also thank you for number one. And I just kept taking the next best step with Jim, if that makes sense, because I believed in what we were creating and what we are creating and what we're doing.
Yeah.
But you're also an amplifier. You are you'll share stuff, right? Like we tag you as a collaborator, you have no problem being an amplifier. We need amplifiers in our lives. And I think a lot of times, especially when we're doing this alone, and in this world of social media where only 1% of our organic reach is going to see anything that we're doing, it's not a lot of people, right? And you don't have a lot of money to put towards ads. So we're all struggling to do this. We have to start relying on other people, not just collaboration, but amplifying each other's messages. Can you talk to me just a little bit about that while I get our next guest set up?
Sure.
Our next guest, give me a thumbs up just so I know you're good. All right.
Oh, look, they're being nice and telling you they're legitimately good. Not messing with you like I did. That's the whole thing is anybody who thinks that they can go at this alone is fooling themselves because everything that we are, someone else helped us to get there. So let me just go back through being on this call. I joined Bradley's mastermind in 2019. Janine Driver was a guest one time, and Brad was working with a girl named Jenna, and Jenna was really awesome, Jenna Silverman. And she said, I think you and Janine need to work together. And she connected Janine and I, Janine Driver. Her book's right over here. So if anybody doesn't know who she is, I'm a huge fan. You got to know her, get her book. You say more than you think. But Janine and I became friends because we weren't trying to compete for business. We were figuring out how do we do collaboration? What can we work on? And so she was teaching me body language. I was analyzing the faces of people in her life. And then I knew that she was going to speak at Brad's event. And I was going to buy a $5,000 ticket to go. And Janine said, hey, hold on one second. She hung up. She calls back. She goes, you're not going. And I go, oh, okay. And she goes, you're going as a speaker. And she called Bradley and she gave up 15 minutes of her talk, of her 60-minute talk, to give me my first time on stage as a speaker. And I sucked, because I was up there, I was nervous, my hand was shaking and everything else. But it was, if she'd never given me that opportunity, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's the whole point of community is you're not just helping yourself. If you've ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, what he says is when he went through the concentration camp, and he was a doctor, so he's helping other prisoners, the ones who said, I want to see my wife again, I want to see my dog again, I want to see my kids again, they were the ones who were able to survive, because we can do more when we're going beyond ourselves. And that's what the whole thing is. Like this group, and I don't know if I can cuss, but I'm going to, the reality is communities are so you can share the shit. We put all the positive stuff up about, oh, look I just got this and let's celebrate. But what you really need is people you can not celebrate with, like the people that you can struggle with and feel comfortable sharing that struggle and know, number one, I need help. And when we're in the struggle, we need outside input. Number two is to know that we're not alone, meaning like one of the biggest posts that ever went viral for me, that was a post, not a video, was when I talked about what it was like to get fired. Because we're not taught to post about shameful things, shameful things. And what I can tell you is getting fired was less scary than the fear of being fired. So for 2 to 3 years, I was in sales, and don't even get me started on all the reasons why, but I lived in constant fear of being fired because we're going to lose a contract. I was going to get blamed because salespeople always do. The day I got fired, I gave myself 24 hours to be pissed and then move on. And what I found was it wasn't as scary as it was. And when I posted about being fired, the amount of people who reached out and said, thank you for sharing what I call the shit, because nobody knows that. It's like, I don't want to tell anybody I was fired. I was let go. I was laid off, whatever term you want to use. We're taught to only celebrate on social media. And what you'll really find is when you can share, that's how you grow. Because if you bury your problems inside, eventually you'll implode. And that's why having part of a community, having people you can call up, you can talk to, you can share both wins and losses is what every entrepreneur needs, let alone every person. And unfortunately, our friends and family mean well, but they're not the right people to go to for those things because they don't want what you want. So look, I was a 9-to-5er. There's nothing wrong with being a 9-to-5er, but going and talking about entrepreneurial problems with a 9-to-5er doesn't make sense because that's not their goal. You need to be around like-minded people who can give you a fresh perspective or have already been down that path that you're just starting on. And that's what'll make all the difference in the world.
I couldn't agree more, Brian. I mean, I'm thinking back of situations and scenarios. I mean, the event that you were talking about that you came back to Nashville for was about a 24-hour period of time where I didn't have the funds to put that event on. I didn't have the funds to pay your travel. I didn't have the funds to buy the food. And I was in panic mode. And I didn't have a location. And we were about 26 days out. And in that period of time, when I asked for help, when I reached out, and when I told people the truth, what do you think happened? People came through for me, right? Brian came and spoke at no cost. Jim McCarthy sponsored the lunch so we could have sandwiches. With the venue was through a recommendation of someone else in the community, and they didn't charge us for the venue, right? The MC didn't charge me for her time. The music, someone brought a speaker so we could use, so we didn't have to AV in. And like there's so many of those things that happened and came together for such a beautiful experience, which in turn has ripple effect because someone at that specific event sent you a card on a day that you were struggling and created positive momentum and impact for you.
Yep.
So you think back of all those things that happened and the emotion that I was riding that day. Emotion number one, wow, I can't do what I say I was going to do. I'm going to break my word. Emotion number two, I'm scared. Emotion number three, I don't have the money. Emotion number four, I'm struggling with some business relationships and some partnerships in the background in that moment of time. And everything changed and flipped when I just told the truth, reached out, asked for help, and was honest and raw. And that moment of emotion, I can bring myself right back to that moment right now where I had a place to go that with people who listened, who have been there before, and they showed up for me. And my emotion of fear and being scared and embarrassed and stupid completely transitioned over to excitement and high energy and a typical let's go moment for Jim Morris, right? And that is what we are going to do for people in our community. That emotion of scared, fearful, horrified, embarrassed will transition into strength and courage and excitement because we are the resources. You're a resource, Brian. You're a resource, Rachel, and every other member in our community is curated and aligned with the fact that we need to show up for each other. So I'm just so excited to call you a friend, man. I'm so excited and just grateful of how big your heart is and how much you believe in me and producer Rachel and how much you believe in Impact Effect community. You're someone that is true to your word. You're someone that shows up for others, and you're a matchmaker, whether it's in life or in business, or alignment of beliefs and thoughts and values. And I'm just grateful for you, man. And I'm just thank you, Brian. Thank you for everything.
Thank
man.
you. Happy to be here.
All right, Brian, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you while I set a couple of the next things up.
Sure. So pretty much everywhere I'm Subtle Skills. Why? Because I started doing this when I was scared to put my own name attached to things. And so I thought I could hide behind Subtle Skills. What I did not realize is no one can spell subtle. So I'm glad you have it up on the screen here because people try SUDDLE, you name it. But if for some reason you're driving, you're listening, you can't type it all in, just go to getthecheatsheet.com. And what you'll get is be able to download a cheat sheet where you can see like, how to understand people based on eyebrow height, the eyebrow shape, eye angle, things of that nature. So, and what the reason that that's kind of so important this day and age is as AI is coming in, it's going to be human connection, soft skills, people skills that will not only get you new business, but will keep you in business at the exact same time. So,
Boom.
Yeah.
Thank you
Brian.
so much, Brian. I really appreciate you.
Hey, great
have an
seeing you guys
amazing
again.
day.
See ya.
Don't
Bye.
text me mean things.
Oh, well, how am I going to spend the rest of my day then?
Checking in on the live to make sure we're doing okay. Bye, Brian. All right, Jim, while I set up our next guest, do you want to talk about this a little bit real quick?
Yes. So today only, folks, the first 25 new members, we're hooking up big. We've got a massive bonus. Check it out at impacteffectcommunity.com. We're going to discount your membership, save you $600 for the year. We're also going to give you a business audit, a strategy session, and build out a content plan for you. All of that is going to be free with you signing up to the monthly membership. Like I said, we only have 25 people. And you've heard it today. If you've tuned into the live, if you heard some of our previous guests, you heard their experiences. You heard the heart and the passion. You heard what the effect and the level of impact has been, whether that's someone who's a speaker that I paid, like Brian Galke, to come into the community, or it's someone who just shows up and shows out and pours into folks like BBurns, or if it's someone like Sam Gordon, who just has exploded in his business and has become the version of himself that he's wanted to and that he wished he would be in just such a short amount of time. All these people have been a part of the Impact Effect community. And with this launch today and putting all of this into one location to make it easy for you to focus, to categorize our trainings and our lives and our templates and our PDFs, so you know exactly what level each piece of content is, so you're not wasting your time and you can actually have organized information that moves the needle. Now, the other thing that you heard today so far is the fact that we want to take action and we want the right people in the community. So everything is built around teaching and training, but also connection and deep human connection. So what does that actually mean? It means we call you. It means we check in with you every single month. We understand what you need, what you want, what problems need to be fixed, what your challenges you're facing, and what are some of those things that you can share and teach and help others. We want to check in. We want to call you. We want to talk to you because we're building this thing as it goes. We don't want to write the prescription for you that your neighbor, that worked for your neighbor, because you're not your neighbor. We want to understand what you need, what problems, and we want to provide those solutions, and we want to do it in real time. So I'm just excited. Check out impacteffectcommunity.com. You'll learn a little bit more about what we got going on inside the community. Stick around for the live today. We're going to dive into the actual app. We're going to give you a preview of the Plus membership. And most importantly, we're going to bring up a huge badass on the stage right now here in a minute.
Yes, we
I'll let you
are.
do the intro, Rachel, but
my
I'm just
gosh.
excited. I'm excited to talk to Brittany and just catch up and talk about all the things. She is such an impactful leader for our entire community and such an advocate and badass woman for the women in business in the community. So I'll let Rachel do the introduction. We'll get rocking and rolling.
We're going to try. Here we go, everybody. Stay with me. All right, our next guest traded comfort for courage, building a banking brand that turns transactions into transformations and empowering women to bank on their own worth. Please welcome Brittany Campbell. I hate that it ends that way. Hi, Brittany. We got to talk StreamYard a little bit, but I'm going to give you some clapping. Ready? Welcome. It's so nice to meet you. I haven't gotten to meet you yet, so I'm just getting to know all these beautiful speakers that Jim has booked for this first part of our launch. Like, I love what you're doing. And Jim, take it away. Like, she's incredible.
Yeah. So Brittany is just a power leader. I don't know how else to describe her. How she shows up, how she's active in the community, what she's building at the bank, her marketing skills. She emceed one of our previous events and absolutely crushed it. I watched, the beauty of Brittany is I watched her build real relationships. Like one of our other speakers, probably the youngest guy on stage, she just poured into it and built the relationship. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch. So I figured it would be so amazing to catch back up with Brittany and just chat about community and business and life today. So Brittany, I'll let you kind of take it away with what's been going on in your world. And we'll just dive in.
Well, I think what I value so much about this particular community is you guys really embrace a lot of transparency, honesty, authenticity, and like a lot of times, sometimes the shit or crap that comes along with being a leader or running your business. A lot of times those can create some connection points that you don't necessarily, really foresee. So we're always like, sometimes we feel like we have to mask or we have to act like we're killing it all the time. And two things can be true at once. You can be absolutely killing it and also crumbling at the same time. And I think the last couple of years, like when we were, you come off of this high of building this brand in the middle of a pandemic that really no one had ever experienced. So like, how do you build onto something in a time that you really can't draw anything from? So you kind of keep going through the motions. And I hit real burnout in just such an epic way, from just riding this high and just doing the most all the time to like, what am I actually doing? Who am I doing it for? What's my purpose? Like all of those like kind of like life questions. And so I think for me, like in the last bit, it has been such an exciting ride. But I'll kind of compare this. I just got back from a conference where we had a fun experience at Universal Studios, which I love, riding all the rides, being on roller coasters. And for the first time, rode a roller coaster that made me feel not so great after getting off of it. So I kind of look at that as a little bit of how we ride through life. Sometimes you can get on a ride, you can be so excited, and then you get off of it and you're like, what the actual just happened, kind of leaves your head straight a little bit. And so that's kind of like where, I've been. It's like going on this very exciting journey. And then also like having life experiences and having things that have just kind of come out of left field on things and just navigating that. And I think having community and building people around you is probably the medicine that I have needed in this like whole wave of things that have happened in the last like 4 or 5 years. So I'm really grateful to have opportunities like with being able to MC events like Impact Effect, and not only being able to be an advocate or represent a brand in our business, but also to be able to make those meaningful connections at the same time has just been a really incredible journey.
You're doing so much and building, and I remember when we were talking about the MC stuff, you were launching and you had all this stuff going on. Who is someone that you leaned on in those moments? Can you kind of just share some of those real raw conversations, and to your discretion, of course. I know there's some business stuff you probably can't or shouldn't talk about, but as far as like who did you go to and how'd you get through some of that? Because I mean, you're doing a lot, Brittany. You're doing a lot.
I don't know. You don't know anything about that, Jim. I'm not like, also like having children at the same time, but definitely, you know, trying, juggling a lot of things at the same time for sure. But I'll say I have the women that helped to co-create this Her Bake brand. I had worked with for anywhere from like 12 to 20 years. So you have, very close relationships, one of the sisterhood women who work together. So we have our own experiences through, our work environments. And there's only things that we get, right? Like it's like we have shared frustrations. We have shared, you know, excitement. We have a lot of things that we kind of do life together. And I think what was really cool about going through building a brand during the pandemic is just the life experiences that we had where we're very close in age. There were just things that we've been through as women and are continuing to go through as women that only we understand. And so I think that being able to translate that to a women's brand was also something that was really unique and meaningful to us. On the other end of that is one of your keynote speakers, Tiffany Napper, was super instrumental during the time of building a brand, being just a friend outside of just a coach and a mentor through a process that I have never really done in business. And then we have like the Kirby Millers, we have the Kathy Thomas that runs Collective 615. There was a whole group of women that I have really built this strong relationship with since I moved to Nashville in the fall of 2019, but really established those relationships right there when everything shut down for the pandemic. So they've really been lifelines for so many different reasons for their own life experiences, for what they do in their business, that have been just invaluable levels of support, not only emotionally, but, really just entrepreneurial knowledge, corporate knowledge and experience that you can just have those deep level conversations with. And it doesn't really matter where you go in the conversation. You have people that will really hold space for you and, help you in any way that they know how and are so resourceful.
Jim, can you touch upon something that Brittany sort of just mentioned a little bit earlier, which was getting clarity on your purpose, and how important that really is, and how you sort of kind of need people to help you get that clarity? Because if it's just you spinning your wheels in your head, not saying it out loud to somebody, it's a little bit harder. Jim, I want you to talk to us about that a little bit, because I love that, getting clarity on the purpose.
It's so important because, and Brandon talked a little bit about this earlier, right? Brandon talked a little bit about others can see the potential in you when you can't see it most. And I think when you get the clarity around your purpose, you show up and show out on the days that most people will quit, right? Like what you're doing and what you're building is really hard. Like there's no sugarcoating entrepreneurship. There's no sugarcoating creation. Like, think about it, right? Like you're building and creating from a thought to an idea, to a plan, to execution, to reality, and immediate feedback if it's working or not. And when those things don't work, you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to give up. And it's fucking embarrassing. Like I've launched a product and had to cancel it like 24 hours later because literally no one bought it. Like, and then I went through it and was like, someone gave me perspective and it was like, this isn't even in line with what you're doing and what you're building. So when you talk about clarity, it pops up into my mind of like, clarity around your purpose is going to allow you to show up when you want to quit. It's going to allow you to take more risk, and it's going to allow you to get through those tough days and climb those hills, even when that hill's muddy and you keep slipping and you keep falling and you keep getting knocked down. And you're like, shit, I only had 200 more feet. Now I have 500. Well, I don't want to go up the hill anymore, right? Let me just turn around on my butt and slide this thing right back down. And it's like, no, if you don't have clarity around your purpose and if you're not in alignment, you're always going to take the slide back down. And so I think it's so important to find that. And I believe that I don't think, I've only met one or two people who I probably believed that said that their purpose just fell in their lap and that they just knew it. They just woke up one day and this was it, and they were gung-ho and that was it. A majority of people that I talk to, including myself and a lot of my close friends, is communication and language back and forth allows us to find that clarity. And for someone on the outside to ask and probe a question that is mind-blowing to you that you've never thought about will allow you to find that clarity and push closer to what you're looking for, seeking, and finding true alignment. I know this is like the 15th time I've talked about Dr. Justin today, but Dr. Justin did this for me in a lot of what I've been building over the last couple of years, is me just talking out loud to him over a cigar or just hanging out, and he's helping me clarify. He's asking questions. What about this? What does this mean? Why is that important? So you have these people in your life that, and Brittany like blew my mind when she was saying this earlier. She's like, those are my lifelines. And I was like lifelines. What does that actually mean? When life's crumbling, when life's folding, when you don't feel the pulse of that's moving you forward or the energy, like you need someone to come in with an injection of hope, an injection of energy, an injection of insight, an injection of love, right? Because we are our worst critics. The way I talk to myself, I would never talk to a man or a woman that way. And I'm working on that, and I'm growing, and I think we all get in our shit moments, like Brian Galke was talking about. But it's that person that pulls you out of it, and that's that lifeline. That's that just quick injection. And again, using Brittany's words, that holds space, right? Like sometimes we need to vent, and then we're done. Sometimes we need to vent, and we find the answer that we've been searching for in what we just said. Like I went to therapy last week for the first time in my life. And I think I talked for the first 20 minutes and figured out my own 7 problems before we dove into the problem that was probably the biggest and the most underlying. And we dove into that, but like just me talking out loud, I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and it's a safe space and it's private. And yes, we're not therapists, but we want to be able to have that resource and hold that space and be available for you. And we will. And that's our promise. Producer Rachel and myself will be available for you in the Impact Effect community.
Yes. And I want Brittany to sort of explain how getting clarity on that purpose actually aligned you with the women that helped you to start Herbank, right?
Ooh.
Like there's a vibration in the voice. I truly believe it. When you can speak it out loud and you can speak it to other people, it's almost like the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe, all of a sudden is like, oh, this is what you want. And they brought those ladies to you. Talk to me about how that became your tribe and creating Herbank.
Well, I think this is such a layered thing because and thank you for bringing a little bit of the woo-woo to the conversation, because I wholeheartedly believe that, you know, when you face fearful decisions or something that you're super scared of, you have a choice to like either move towards that fear, especially if it feels so aligned. You know, I moved from a hometown that I had established relationships in, had been very successful in. Now it's not too far from here. But I lived there for 39 years. My whole family is from there. So making a decision to move to Nashville to deepen my career and to really start a new chapter in my life was super scary. I was like, you know, I have friends here, but I don't really have a community. And the day that I kind of would say marked such a change was International Women's Day. Before any of this, there was not a concept of a women's brand that never even entered my mind. So when you speak to, you know, purpose landing in your lap, I think that my whole life I've been driven to do something impactful. I've always wanted to make a difference. I've always been very active. I've volunteered. I've done so many things, you know, even going back to like high school and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's parts of this that's so much in my DNA. But I was laying on the couch with my dog on a Sunday, like ready to just do my like Netflix binge on the next like great series out there, and happened to be doing a doom scroll that showed that they had tickets left for an International Women's Day event at Collective 615, which had been on my radar, which was a women's co-working space in Nashville, happened to be in my neighborhood. And I'm like, I could sit in my comfort zone, do what I would do on a chilly, Sunday afternoon, or I could buy this ticket and go and see what happens. Just so happened that not only did I meet some very key people who are, very dear friends to me now, I didn't know anybody and happened to have an ice breaking card. There was this whole like activity to do to get to know people in the room, that my card matched Kathy Thomas, who owns the space. Now, like, of all these women in the room to have drawn this card randomly to have this, conversation where she's like, I'm running this event. Can you give me a few minutes after the event? And I'd love to get to know you, and talk to you. So obviously I waited to have that conversation, and that was so great. We've realized we had a lot in common. There were just I signed up my membership the day everything shut down. We had no idea. So all of these like little key things that were decisions to get out of a comfort zone or to do something that I was in fear of has led me on this path. And it has never failed me. So we have like fear of failure. I run into this day all the time. I'm scared of a lot of things, to be honest. But I also am confident enough to know that on the other side of that have been open doors that I would have remained locked had I stayed where I was and never made the decision to move forward, in those things that I knew in my gut were something I was supposed to do. And I think in a lot of us that when we're in tune to ourselves, we have the self-awareness, there is something inside of us that says, you just go, just do it. And then there's the other side that's like, no, 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 don't do it. Don't do it. But you do it anyway. And I think most people's stories I have found, on the other side of that decision to do the thing has led to incredible, paths on their journey.
I couldn't agree more. And as you're saying this, what I'm realizing is how grateful I am that you made that jump and that leap, because Collective 615 is how we got connected, right?
Mhm,
Through Ashley
mhm.
Griffin and through
Yep,
Kathy and
yep.
all that. So when you
Mhm,
think about it, it's like, wow, we're connected. You're now meeting producer Rachel. Like
mhm.
all these things happen. And I'm saying this because I can already see you and producer Rachel becoming like besties. There's just a lot of
That's
alignment.
how it happened.
But that's how it happens, right?
Mhm,
And you got to do the scary thing, and you got to show up, and you've done that, Brittany. And your vulnerability around, like, you're like, I'm scared of a lot of things, but I've also been on the other side of that, and it's not necessarily failure. Like that hit me so hard, because people walk around and we think, oh, Jim's this big bad whatever, and he's gonna go and speak and do this and throw conferences and do events and launch this. Like, I'm scared shitless of all this too. Right? Like, there's you want to talk about, like, this morning before this live, we've never done a live all day long. We've never put together this many elements, right? Like, and again, producer Rachel, big piece of this. It wouldn't happen without her. But like, I was scared this morning. I was nervous, I'm a million thoughts through my brain, through my mind. And you're right. That there was that voice that said, will anybody show up today on the live? There was also that voice that said, I'm a badass. And if they don't, I'm just going to pour into people. Right?
mhm.
So, like, what card are we gonna pick? What are we gonna choose? And at what point do we fall back on ourselves by saying, "Hey, if the worst comes to it, I'll learn from it, and we'll just keep going. We'll just move forward. I'll figure it out." Now, do I wanna figure it out? No, I want Brittany to show up and do what Brittany just did, because she's a badass, and she just poured in, and she's honest, and she's real, and she's vulnerable, and she values community. So I'm grateful that Brittany was here, and Brittany is a woman of her word. But it's also like, how do I have a backup plan, and how do I, look fear in the face? So if the worst does come to it and something happens or Brittany gets sick or whatnot, then I can show up still. And I think those are just it's such an impactful thing to realize in real time. But it's also just, again, I'm just grateful for you, and I'm grateful for you sharing and being vulnerable, and doing what you do. I mean, building a brand and a bank around women and women business, like it's creation at its finest, because it's needed, it's wanted, and you're the one that's doing that and making that a reality. So kudos to you.
Yeah, Brittany, you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to put this little graphic up. Tell everybody how they can find you and if they want more information.
Yeah, well, it's there on the screen. You can find me on Instagram at Brittany_Herbank. You can also follow along on our journey as a brand at Herbank by Legends, and would love to connect.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Brittany. You are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us. All right, Jim, when I get this next guest ready, next guest, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Thank you. All right, let's talk about this real quick, and then also talk about Go High Level. Can I throw that up there real quick?
Let's do it. So all of our members will get Go High Level, which is a CRM, which is customer relationship management. If you don't know what CRM means. And what that does is it allows you to have an email system to mass email. It allows you to have a system to SMS text, build contacts, build pipelines, move people through your process, send contracts, send payment links, send invoices, create automated workflows. So, when you pay an invoice or you sign a contract, 6 or 7 things happen after that based on the workflow you set up. This is also a CRM where you can schedule your content and post your content. You can also set up calendars like Calendly for free, all within this CRM system, Go High Level. And the beauty in this is we give this to you as a member of the Plus community within Impact Effect. We also provide trainings, and we also walk you through how to leverage and utilize the tools. Also, today we have, and let me just look at the update here. We've got 13 out of 25 people signed up so far this morning in the last couple hours. So we've got 12 spots available at the discount with the bonus still. You will save $600 a year on the membership, and we will provide a business audit, a strategy session, and a content plan, all free of charge as part of your bonus for joining Impact Effect community today. We only have 25 slots available for all these bonuses and the discounted membership. And like I had just mentioned, we have 13 of 25 already signed up. So if you're thinking about it, here's your invite. Here's your enrollment. We're not going to sit here and push and sell you and make things up. If this aligns with you, if what you've heard today makes sense, if you're someone that doesn't want to do it alone and believes and wants community, this is the place for you. Let's have a conversation. Check out impacteffectcommunity.com. There's an option to apply right there, and get you into the community ASAP. There's also an option to schedule a call and have a deeper conversation. I believe that how we built this will service 3 levels: the starting entrepreneur, the building entrepreneur, and the scaling entrepreneur or business owner. So if you're in any of those 3 levels and you're doing less than 15 million a year, this is a place for you, a place of true, real, honest community.
That was so good. Very good, Jim. All right. Deep breaths, you guys. Take a sip of your water. Do you need a snack yet?
I was gonna say we're rolling. I'm feeling good.
All right. Okay. Whew. All right, here we go. Let's get some music going. All right, our next guest swapped poolside chaos for viral truth bombs, proving satire is the sharpest weapon against absurdity. Please welcome accidental author and political provocateur, Shane Algram.
Let's go.
That was quite the intro. I like that. I was not expecting that. I didn't know if we were going to go with the branding thing and the marketing thing. We went with provocateur. I love it. My mom would agree more with that than anything else I could possibly have come up with on my own. So well done.
I was telling producer Rachel, Shane, about your Substack and how you're blowing up and you're getting famous over there. So I think she went in and looked at some of the stuff you've been producing.
Well, I mean, he's doing it all right, too. I don't think a lot of people are considering Substack and changing the way that they're communicating with people, right? We live in this metaverse that forces us to rent our audiences, right? Like, truly. And Shane, you owned it.
Yeah, the verbiage, you said the metaverse, because I started this on Facebook, and the only reason we're on Substack is because I've got an aunt that lives in Canada, and I had published something in February, and she came back a couple days later, and she said that thing that was up, I got halfway through it, and then it disappeared. What happened to it? And I said, I don't have any idea. And I just went digging, and apparently Canada had passed a bill in 2023 that required platforms like Google or Meta to pay the journalist or the writers for the content that the company published on their site. So if you published and Meta pushed it out, they were required to pay, and Meta decided to skirt the issue by just taking all news down. So what I was writing qualified as news, which was news to me. It was news in my mind, like the way the Daily Show is news. So she just asked me to find a place to put it evergreen so she didn't lose it. So I went to pacify my aunt, and that's how we got this Substack that started popping off.
But that's how you can speak to the importance of community too, because you like to launch anything to or write to, you have to have the people around you to do that too, right? I think a lot of times we just put something out in the ether. You managed through your work and your art and your writing to grow a community. Can you talk about the importance of community and other people?
Yes, one of the things that I've learned about community, and you usually when you think of community, you think of something that's really, really close knit. As the numbers get bigger, conceptualizing community kind of is inversely proportional. You think it's too big now. There's not the interpersonal connection. And the page that I operated for a year or so on Facebook, that was what I would, in my mind, was a community. It was like 40 people. And I don't think we functioned as a community. It felt more in hindsight like a teacher or pastor kind of dynamic where I had a little platform and I'd get up there and I'd say my thing and I'd get the likes or the shares or whatever. And there wasn't a whole lot of feedback. And as the numbers started growing, you figure out there are certain people that are the ones that comment on every post or whatever. And instead of just always getting out there in, it is a platform for me to do my analysis and my commentary, but doing polls with people, asking people what kind of things they wanted deep dives of, letting them vote on whatever. I go, all right, we're gonna do a group poll on this. We're going to cover the top 100 questions that you guys get the most. What are you hearing in the spaces from your friends, family, whatever? And it was weird to discover how you build a community with numbers that I wouldn't have thought community would have been this easy. I would have thought the community would be way easier with 40 than with like 15,000. But people love getting involved in. There's like a camaraderie when everybody's working on a project together, especially a big daunting one. And you're like, ooh, how do we eat this elephant?
But do you also find that a community holds you accountable, even though you're the head of that community?
Yes, and I don't like it at all.
Why? Because you have to keep showing up and creating more art and writing more.
Accountability is awesome because it makes you do the things you're supposed to, and it sucks because it makes you do the things. It basically forces you to confront your level of integrity. I said I was going to do this. Can I actually do it? And
it's such an important piece, though. Like, you just hit on something that just grabbed me. Like, at the end of the day, it's everybody's being held accountable in a community as long as they're present and they want it, right? And at the end of the day, I want to do all the things, but the community holds me accountable to do them, because if it's just for me and it's not a bigger purpose, then I wouldn't actually show up and do those things. So to your point, what you were saying, and like, you're getting people to vote and you're taking polls, and what I hear from that is that you actually care about them. Like, what I derive from that is you want to service them and show up and help and provide what they want, wish, and need. And in turn, it's pushing you to do the things that you know you want to do, but sometimes struggle because you're a human and we're all human, right? Like, I was nervous to do this live stream this morning. Like, there was a point where I walked downstairs, walked upstairs, walked downstairs, walked upstairs, forgot why I was going downstairs, and then just realized, like, wow, I'm feeling the stress and the pressure, like, because I care, right? And it's here. This is real. Like, we're going live for like 16 hours. Like,
yeah, well, do you remember being the worst thing that could happen when you were a kid? It wasn't your parents yelling at you. It wasn't your parents, threatening or screaming. The worst thing they could say that just crushed you was, "I'm disappointed in you." And you find out in life, it's not just the parents, it's your community, your peers, your colleagues, whatever. The idea of disappointing someone and letting them down is worse than any. That's the fear. Like, I don't usually operate in fear, but that is a fear that is like constantly ongoing. Is I hope I'm not disappointing someone by not bringing enough effort, by not bringing enough intensity or integrity or quality. I promised a certain level of quality of product, a certain amount of time. I got to do it. And oh my gosh, the thought of disappointing people, it almost makes you like retreat into your like 6-year-old self.
But you've got to have your community. You've got to have your people to go to. So that way you have that support to show up for the community you're building and responsible for. Like, it's funny because it works in tandem, in full circle, right? It's like, that you're doing the tough thing or the hard thing, and you care about the positive impact. So how do you go fill your cup, and what community and people do you have around you so you can show up best in your purpose, your passion, or what excites you and what makes you feel good, right? Like, your followers and your presence on Substack and, your political writing, that's just one small piece of Shane.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But that small piece, if it's giving anxiety, if you're feeling lonely, you don't have anybody to go to, you want to be responsible, you want to be accountable, but you need some help and you're confused. Like, you've got to fill your cup too, and it's just funny because in order to pour into your community and all your followers on Substack, you need your cup filled by a community as well, right? It's like this revolving door.
And it is cyclical. I've been overwhelmed with the amount of support from all over the world that has come in. Like, I was looking up my stats on the Facebook page, and the 3 biggest cities that I have engagement from was New York, LA, and Helsinki, Finland. And I was trying to, like, where did this come from? And we were going through, because I had 3 people reach out last month. One was an investigative reporter with the Irish Times. One was in Singapore, and another was in, I'm not going to guess. It was somewhere in Europe, but they said, "We saw what you're doing, and we saw this poll that you took and the question was, what are some of the most common false narratives that you hear on a particular aisle that you don't have a ready answer for, that if we were going to create a repository of answers to common statements or whatever, what would you like to hear? And I was expecting a few dozen. I was not expecting several thousand responses that we had to curate. And these reporters reached out and they said, we see what you're trying to do. We would love to volunteer our time as investigative journalists to help you source whatever.
Wow.
And it was like, I had never even contemplated this being like a crowdsourced kind of thing. It felt like a one-man band, and just like that there were so many people anxious. They wanted to also be part of a community. And it doesn't just, I guess, feed my spirit. It's feeding it someone else's also.
But to your merit, Shane, like you built this on truth and honesty and always showing up as your, like, I know we use the word authentic, but like your true self. You never changed that. No matter how big the community got, you still continued to like speak your truth and be honest. Mm-hmm. How did that sort of help actually attract those people to you? Because I'm sure you go on and not every day is perfect. Yeah. And I'm sure you share the imperfect stuff because I don't think you're scared to do that. Can you explain how that actually helps attract more people to you as opposed to it attracts the right people to you, right? Like it helps you build your tribe. Can you talk to me about that?
It was funny because after putting out 3 books and doing a whole lot of freelance writing, you know, it took me a whole lot of years of practicing to figure out what my voice was. And I write in an informal style. No one is ever going to accuse me of writing textbooks or stiff form. I mean, I've got a background in comedy. I'm really, really sarcastic. And the people that have read the books, they knew that. But as people started flooding in, you know, the Trumpland page jumped from 40 followers to over 10,000 in like a week. And it was all these people who they'd never heard of me. They didn't know who I was. They had no idea really what they were getting in for. Somebody had shared, you know, an article, a long form essay that went viral. And there's some writing quirks. Like a lot of times instead of saying going, I'll write gonna, Gonna. Or instead of probably, I'll write probably. And it's on purpose. I'm trying to keep it informal. I will start sentences with conjunctions and, but, and so, and I know you're not really supposed to do that. I will often not have a verb in there. It's, you know, I'll write little snippets. I call them running jokes. They're Easter eggs for the people that have been there a long time. But, you know, if you weren't there from the beginning, you're like, this is sort of like weird. And the amount of people who chimed in the comments, like trying to volunteer. I had one old lady, she said, I'm a retired school teacher. There's a lot of editing mistakes. I'd be happy to point them out for you. And I will escalate my degree of engagement, usually based on the attitude that they approached me with. My goal is always to remain as civil and keep it at an academic level. If people want to, you know, start heckling, whatever, we'll dish it back at whatever level they want to go. So she couldn't have been sweeter. And I had to explain to her, well, this is why I've done it like that. But it was, we got a whole lot of those things, people chiming in. Some person actually wrote me and he said, I want to share this. It was on Substack. He goes, I want to share this, but you wrote more gooder. And he goes, can you change this? Because man, that's not the right expression. And I was like, I know, but if you read it in context, I was talking about something else somebody was insulting intelligence on somebody. And, you know, don't ever spell things wrong. Don't use the wrong words. And, you know, that's a more gooder lesson for all of us to learn. It was. But the things that people would find to nitpick about. But just as I would come back and explain that, then the people who were either there for the joke or got it immediately, that's how they kind of identified their tribe, I guess, was okay, here's, yeah, I like the little quirky, I like a quirky style and someone who's not flipping off the handle if somebody comes and explains it. So that it was a weird tribe building experience.
With your writing in your book, are you writing that way in your book, or is that more academic?
No, it's informal. I don't even know if this is the time or the place to discuss how the book got here. I know we're on a time crunch.
Tell us the story you shared with me when we were on stage speaking together.
So the book that I brought there, I had started trying to write that. I had been approached by a film producer that wanted to try to turn it into a screenplay, and he needed a book in hand for the screenwriter. The story, very briefly, is I had missionary parents growing up. We were kicked out of China in '89 after the Tiananmen Square massacre, and then my mom spent a decade trying to organize the first ever Christian concert to China and trying to do it in a way that the Communist Party, didn't know she was trying to bring a Christian band. They just thought she was trying to bring a Western band because she had done so many underhanded scrubbing EPKs, press kits and stuff. So she got this huge Christian band called the Newsboys to agree to go, and China to agree to let them come in, not knowing they were Christian. And after 10 years putting this all together, 12 days before the concerts, the Newsboys backed out. And my mom scrambled, and I'm a keyboard piano player. And so she grabbed me and 4 other people. She just threw a makeshift band together, musicians that had never played together. Most of us had never met each other. And she said, we're going to go to China in a week and a half and pretend to be the Newsboys, and we're not going to tell the communists that we're not really them. And so we went to China, and we were huge rock stars for a week over there. And I was trying to write that book and had started it. I got halfway through it, been working on it for 2 years, and it was just, I had writer's block. And it was weird because it wasn't a fiction book. I didn't have to work out what the story was going to be. I was there. I knew how it ended, but I didn't know how to tell it. And I'd heard countless people say that the first book you write is the hardest, but once you break the ice, then the ones that follow are easy. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do, since I can't finish this, I will sneak up on myself and I will make this not my first book. I'll make it my second one. And I'll take all these political writings I've been putting on my personal Facebook page and just curate them. And because everything's time stamped on Facebook, I said, okay, well, it's about Trump. We'll call it the Trumpland Diary. And it ended up being this huge, fat book. And I was like, well, I just was trying to trick myself, but I've actually got a product here that we can put on. I'll self-publish this on Amazon. And it had gone to #1 in political humor, like within 2 weeks. And then people were like, well, you should write a sequel. And I said, no, I was trying to psych myself into to writing this other thing. I had no intention. That was just so I could get out of my own way. And I want to focus on this other thing. And ever since then, it was that thing that's has taken off. I did finally come back and finish the book, and I gave it to the producer, and he's got the screen guys working on it. But I thought, when I came and I did that talk with David where I met you, Jim,
Yep.
I was given a pep talk basically on the sort of the mentality it took for us to go do that, the China thing, and the lessons that I'd learned from business people that I think are applicable still. But again, so how often in life is the thing that we find the success in not at all where we plan? It's not where we thought we were going.
But you showed up and you lived in who you are, right? And and we were talking about this earlier with one of our guests. It's like you still stayed in the ball game. You still stayed in the court. You just shifted a little bit to what you were doing and what satisfied you. And in turn, that blew up. That became the thing. That became the book. That became the group, the community you've built, the following. It's interesting to hear that again in your story, right? And in your journeys, because at the end of the day, in the impact effect community, we're pushing you to show up and to not give up. Right. And at the end of the day, you need resources and you need people to help fill your cup the same way that you needed that to build what you've built. And what I get so excited about in what you're sharing and what you were just saying is, we all need a little bit of resource and a little bit of pivot in some moments and sometimes. And your success has come from that. And is your story today, right? It's what you shared on stage. It's what you just shared here. And that's going to help someone. That's going to impact someone. And my hopes is we can continue to do that in the impact effect community, right? Where we give the offering, we give the opportunity, and we navigate it together rather than navigating it alone.
There's also something so powerful, Shane. I'm sorry, but in saying yes. Right? Like you didn't say no to your mother, right? You didn't say no to the people that approached you. You said yes. You may not have known how it ended, but you did. Yes. You said yes. And right. Instead of saying no, but
Jim can attest to this. I've got 3 guiding principles. Say what if, and then go find out. It's get the tire over the fence and say yes, and then go figure it out. So those are my 3 lessons that I learned from fantastic mentors that I just I've assimilated them so long ago into my core that I don't even really think about them as a concept. It's just pure instinct. That's when you hear something like when Jim asked me if I wanted to do this, yep, I don't explain to me tomorrow what it was I just agreed to. I'm in. I don't know what it is. We'll find out. Yeah.
But that's the best part about being in a community of people, of like-minded individuals. We do something different, yet you have people that are always there and have your back. You said something earlier when you were talking about trying to write the first book, and I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say you didn't know how it was going to end and you didn't know how to say it, or you knew how it was going to end, you just didn't know how to speak it?
I didn't know how to tell it. I knew how to, I didn't have a climax because, life isn't movie-esque usually. It's like, what is the payoff here? Like we went and did it, the end. Well, that's not exciting. How do you build tension? And finding out that there actually was a way to do it that didn't require fabricating anything. It was like workshopping. How do we tell, the same way in comedy, you craft the joke, you craft it, you edit it. Like there's a sentence structure. There's the ideal choice of words that makes the punchline perfect. There's a story buried in there somewhere, and it's just chipping off the edges. How do we frame it? Where do we start? Do we start at the beginning? Do we tell it non-linearly? Do it like Tarantino-esque? Does that aid the story at all?
But you keep saying we, right? And so I think there's something beautiful in saying it out loud, saying we're not sure where it's going or how it's going to end, but we know there's something here. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand, especially people that like have a story to tell, but they think like, oh, but I'm not a writer. Oh, but I don't make movies. I want people to sort of start shifting that mindset into like, what if, into I am, I can, we are. Can you talk about that energy sort of behind what you do, as opposed to sitting on the sidelines and just thinking about what could be, as opposed to actually making it happen?
I think that everybody is creative. I think most people don't know that. I think the people that understand it, those are your artists, your artisans, your musicians, your painters, your sculptors, your builders, whatever. For me, the worst thing in the world is being aware of the passage of time. If you've ever been on a job and you're staring at the clock going, when is this going to end? Or whatever it is that you're doing, the passage of time is soul crushing. And the thing on the opposite end where you don't recognize that time is passing is when you're involved in a creative endeavor, whatever it is, when you're building or writing, and you look up and you're like, where did 6 hours just go? Dinner's put away, it's in the fridge, wife went to bed. And she's like, I called you and you're zeroed in. When you're in that flow, for me, there's nothing better than just being in the creative moment, making the thing, doing the thing, and trying to convince a person who doesn't think that they are creative, trying to describe what that's like. You really can't use words. It's like, guys, you've got to do it. So finding the passion, even if it's if there's something that you haven't cultivated over years, trying as many things, because there's a lot of people who are a thing that they don't know they're the thing yet because they haven't done it and experienced the joy or the natural talent. So if you don't know what your thing is, if you don't know what your creative thing is, and first off, turn off the TV. If I had that, all of my advice starts with turn off the TV. You will be amazed, because I hear so many times, people, I don't have time for this. How much TV did you watch today? Turn it off. You will find 2 to 6 or more hours instantly, and then go try stuff. And in the art of trying, in the act of trying, try a thing for a week, or if you have a short attention span, do a different thing every day, whatever it is. At some point, you're going to find your thing, and you're going to realize, oh, I'm a that. That's what I am. I didn't know I was a that. So
just keep on trying the thing and build it into the schedule and look at the opportunity of time. You hit such a freaking mind-blowing point, like the passage of time, like that is miserable when you are looking at the clock counting down. Right? Like go back to the gym when you don't want to work out, when you're tired, when maybe you've had a couple cocktails at an event the night before, maybe you launched an app this week, maybe you went live all day long like a crazy person. But at the end of the day, what time do you have available to do those things, and what can you remove out of your schedule so you have the opportunity to test, to make an effort into something, to feel through it, to see if you enjoy it or not, right? And just this conversation alone has me thinking, and Rachel knows this, like I'm crazy around time, because my strength is strategy, and I like routine, and I like maximizing and leveraging is probably my favorite word in the moment right now. But it's so important because my life right now, right? I've got a young son, I've got a 2.5-year-old little girl, I've got a marriage and a wife, a newer marriage, right? We've only been married a couple of years. Like, I've got all these things going on, but I need to continue to push and keep adapting and keep trying stuff. And I think what you're talking about is finding the courage to do that, but also understanding that you need to open up some time to be able to play, to be able to experiment, to be able to try without that negative self-talk to beat yourself up and kill yourself over the fact that maybe this wasn't the thing, but I kind of like this little piece of it. The impact effect community, this is the conversations we get to have with everybody. We get to have them as a collective group. We get to have them in a safe space, a place where we feel that we belong, where we feel that we are welcomed with open arms and not looked at as failure, not looked at as, oh, you pivoted. No, you tried something, realized you didn't like it. Like, that's a thing of beauty. And I believe that we need community, and we need a group, and we need a place to go to have these conversations. I'm grateful for you, Shane, because you just dive in, man. Like, you're ready to roll. Not a lot of people are like that. And I wasn't like that for so long. That's why community for me was so important, because I can go and I can test an idea and get feedback. And that feedback is at a choice of me to take it and run with it, to listen to it, or to ultimately disagree with it, right? Like, I've had people that I trust, that are mentors, that told me to move back to Boston 4 years ago, right? I had to analyze that. I had to pivot that, and I had to realize it myself. And I think, we want to be the broker and the stewardess to those open conversations, and also allow you the opportunity to make that decision yourself, right? We are giving you knowledge and from our experiences and from a collective group of people in the community, but ultimately that decision's your own and you're going to know it best and you're going to trust your gut. But to your point, how can we talk about these things openly, and where there's the space for us to do that and not be judged? That space is inside Impact Effect Community.
Well, I also want to make one other point before we say goodbye to Shane. What he just mentioned, turn the TV off. One of the things that we're doing within Impact Effect Community, and it was the most important thing for me, is co-creating sessions. So we'll be live and we will just be co-creating. It's just time that you can block out together. I'll be working on something while everybody else is working on something. We can start out with, hey guys, what are you working on? And we'll block out that hour to just create. So whether it's building a funnel, building reels, writing a book, whatever it is, we're going to allow people to have that time to sort of block out and co-create and hold each other accountable. Jim and I did a live last night, literally asking people, are you a creator or are you a consumer? Because if you keep whining about not having time, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, I don't have time to build this business. You do. The time is in your camera roll right now. Like Meta will tell you exactly how much time that you were doom scrolling. Look at what you're doing and how you're choosing to spend your time, and then really start to rethink, could I be creating? Could I be finding some joy in something other than watching other people live their lives? And so, Shane, I love that you are here. I'm so thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to throw up this little graphic. Tell people how they can find you.
Sure. The best two places to interact with me, the Facebook page is the Trumpland Diary, and the Substack is shanealmgren.substack.com. You will find the Trumpland Diary there. Those are the two places where I am the most often. You'll find a snarky political humor community there. So come join us.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate you, brother.
Shane, thank you so much. That was great. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I love what you guys are doing. Y'all are crushing it.
Thank
you. All right, our next guest, give me a thumbs up real quick, just so I know he's ready to go. Jim, I'm going to put a graphic up for you. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Real quick. Shane was talking about turning the TV off. You were talking about creating instead of consuming. One of the things we have as a resource inside the Impact Effect community is a time audit. So we have a template and a document, and we'll roll through this with you, and we'll do it as a collective group, or we could do it one-on-one. But at the end of the day, we want you to audit your time. We want you to time block, and we want you to make a decision based on what you've been doing and if that's getting you to where you want to go. We talk about time blocking from a real raw perspective. We're not just filling out a template or a sheet that says, hey, let's color this one yellow. And I realize that I have way more yellows and I really need way more blues. It sounds rudimentary when you color code, but the reality of it is it draws conclusions and connection around what you're doing. The question to ask yourself, and this is how we guide you, whether it's collective or one-on-one, is by asking the hard question that you don't want to ask yourself. Well, I can't cancel this meeting, or I can't cancel this reoccurring thing that keeps happening on my calendar because X, Y, and Z. Okay, we understand that. But is X, Y, and Z getting you to your goal? Is X, Y, and Z getting you to your passion? Is X, Y, and Z something that you need to do today in hopes that you wake up tomorrow in the morning and can continue to do what you wish to do and live in your purpose? These are the questions that you need that 30,000 foot view on. These are the questions that we probe and ask as a collective community. So when I hear time blocking, I used to think, oh, let's get the colored pencils out. Let's just color in this, and this is sales, and this is personal. It's so much more than that, and it's so much deeper than that. And the reason why I know is because I've done this with multiple clients who always find time. And most importantly, they find clarity in their time, and clarity in their schedule, and clarity in how they're getting to where they want to go. So I just want to drop that in there because we were talking about time and consumption and consuming and doom scrolling, and this exercise has changed so many people's lives, and we want to walk through that with you inside the Impact Effect community. So enough about me, enough about the community. I'm fired up because we got Dr. James Bush in the house.
We do. All right, James, get ready. I'm going to put some music on too, because why would I not amp this up? All right, are we all ready?
My man.
Our next guest turns silent struggles into systemic change, healing communities one story at a time. Please welcome mental health revolutionary, Dr. James Bush.
Let's go. Come on.
Hey, that was actually good, man, Rachel. That was actually good. A mental health revolutionary.
Here's
I
the clap.
that. I like that. Nice, man. How you doing, Jim?
Good, man. How are you, brother?
Man, brother, I'm
Dr.
blessed,
James,
I am blessed.
we haven't met, so welcome. I appreciate you being here. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself and the community that you've been building and why it's so important?
Well, I'm James Bush. I'm from the DMV. I'm relocated to Nashville. You might as well say Nashville is my home now. I've been here since '99. I am very passionate about working with males and mental health. And what I find is that, ladies, they have their safe spaces. They have their opportunities to go and divulge their feelings and emotions and be vulnerable with one another. But a lot of times men don't do that. I mean, yes, we do sometimes within the barbershop confines, but when we actually are intentional and we speak to the very exact nature of men and what they're going through and what they're facing, I think it's so important. So what I like to do is within our Nashville-Davidson County community and extend it along those lines is create those safe space along with other good brothers, Corey Jones as well as Corey Bill. And what we've done is we've had meetups all over the Nashville community. And it is very, very impactful. We get some great feedback. I'm a detail nerd and data nerd, so I'm throwing surveys out there and saying, hey, what do we need? How do we connect? What could we do a better job on? And that, it's been a blessing. So yeah, excited about it.
Dr. James is a man of few words when he needs to, but extremely impactful. We had him on the podcast recently and he went deep. So if you haven't checked out the Impact Effect podcast, his episode's coming out soon. So definitely be sure to check that out. But James, I want to ask you a question, man. When we first met, you didn't know me. You didn't know what I was building. You didn't know what I was all about. You didn't know probably I even had a podcast, right? It was a recommendation of a recommendation to come and experience an intimate experience, essentially. Tell me about what you think now about Impact Effect and Jim Morris based on your experiences recently.
It's sometimes it's taught me to color outside the lines, to be honest with you. So we can look at that as somewhat of abstract, but sometimes I look at that as progressive because, what we have been doing for so long sometimes isn't working. So let me make it a little bit plainer. If you follow a strict regimen that says the healing looks this way and you're not being healed, then you've got to change that. You got to do something different. And I think what you offered me is that the first thing that I noticed is that I'm on a trampoline jumping up and down, imagining what life looks like or, what I could. And I was like, oh, gosh. And so a friend of mine this morning, she said, what would it be like if you were just to run around frolicking? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about frolicking, but, I said, maybe I will get, maybe I will get my camera one day and I got a big field and I just go and I just just run around just like that kind of thing. I think, what would that actually look like? And I don't know, but I'm willing to try it. And again, that's what it was. When I met you that evening, I was willing to try it and I was blessed by it, man. Then on and so forth.
So James had come to a concept called Beyond the Table, where we talk about our dreams openly. We identify, we clarify, and we ask boldly for the people at our dinner table to carry us past the event, to leverage their resources and who they can connect us with. So it puts us in a space to be bold and to ask for help and to be vulnerable, while also clarifying what we want, how we're going to get there, and what our dreams truly are. And, you know, James and the conversations that he was having and some of the things I overheard really pushed me to lean in. And what I mean by leaning in is really starting to understand, how can we build a community where we can bring in someone that we've never met before, we've never been introduced before. I think someone had come to my event, they said they couldn't come to this. They told James bought a ticket, and here we are having a conversation. Then we're following up and doing a podcast together. James is inviting me to some of the events that he's doing and getting me intertwined into that group of folks that I just don't know. I don't know the folks that he's doing some of these events and get-togethers with. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to, are you going to try something new? Are you going to try something and put all your effort and energy into it? James showed up at that event with open arms. James showed up at that experience and was open to conversation and connection and to vulnerability. And I don't think you knew one person in the room. And we didn't know each other either. So you knew no one. But he showed up and he invested in himself to have an experience. And James, can you just talk a little bit about that? Like, you bought the ticket. It wasn't free. It wasn't $20. You bought the ticket, invested in it, in an experience. Like, what was kind of going through your mind? Why did you take that leap?
It was something different. I mean, we've all had times when we've had gatherings with friends and family, or sometimes we've had opportunities when we've sat down at a clinical setting. And I think that it was a blending for me. It was something new, something unique. And it was something that I needed, especially on my span of my journey, where I'm going. And it's just being able to diversify yourself with people who think differently or may think the same way. You never know. But until you do that investigation, you will never know. And until you do that journey of you will never know. So my point being is that it was an opportunity. We all are given opportunities to do great and wonderful things. Sometimes they are monetarily connected. Sometimes they are mentally stimulating connected. I found that was something for me that hit both areas and both avenues. So my thing is like, why not? I mean, we only get so much time on this earth to do X, Y, and Z. So why not?
Well, I also think you and Jim are both about human connection. You're not just about networking, right? I feel like networking is like that icky thing of like, what can I do for you? What can you do for me, right? Whereas you're looking to connect to people on a human level. You also just said something earlier about just asking your community, right? The community of men, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you need? Can you talk to the importance of like feedback from your own people and how you're not coming into the things that you do as like, hey, this is what we're going to do because I said so. You're literally growing just like we are. You're growing your community as it goes, and you're pivoting and changing because of what the community needs, not because of what you think they need. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think sometimes there's a lot of hubris where we just are like, I have the answer. It's like, no, the hell you don't. It's like, you don't have the answer. The answer lies within the community and lies within the people. The people will tell you. All you have to do is just sit and be willing to listen. And it's a specific message that they are saying. And sometimes that message changes from month to month, year to year, day to day, hour to hour. But one of the things I learned about as being in the clinical field is that people are going to come and they're going to need your services. You just have to be ready and available when they do. And so that's the thing is that, all right, we are ready to like have those manversations is what we call them. Yes, it's trademark, manversations. We're able to, be available to have those discussions to talk about or what needs to happen. What do you feel? and let's come together and potentially try it. Why not? Just like when I tried that Beyond the Tape that evening, why not try something of working together and actually having a spirited, constructive discussion with brothers and sisters at a table, just ironing out, hey, look. And then it's not about me convincing you of my point of view or my idea, but it's informing you. Because if you're informed, then now you understand of where I'm coming from this perspective and another perspective. So yeah, why not?
Starting the fire over here, bro. Man, it's not because I want to convince you. It's because I want to understand the perspective.
Exactly.
I think that's such a powerful and strong perspective, especially of a man, to say that rather than coerce or rather than manipulate or influence based on you discerning the fact that what you're saying or your opinion is correct and it's not manipulation, it is influence. Right? Like those two words are drastically different depending on the intent.
That's right.
And I think how you just phrase that is freaking magical, dude. Like, we don't want you to come into the impact effect community and change all your beliefs. We don't want you to come into the impact effect community and throw everything that you've been doing out the window and just listen to us. We want to get your feedback. We want to do a business audit. We want to understand your problems and your struggles, because just like you, Dr. James Bush, you can't just diagnose someone based on what the other person did or said, or right? Like that's malpractice. So why would we, just because we don't have the doctor, just because we don't have the education you have in your skill set, in your medical field, we can't just openly operate with malpractice because we didn't assess, we didn't get feedback, we didn't understand, we didn't ask the questions, we didn't show compassionate curiosity. Right. So the things and the approach that you take, I just align so well with you. And it's why I was so excited for us to talk today and get on a live and continue our friendship and relationship, because I'm learning so much from you. And, you know, that is the exchange of community, is I get to decide what I want to take in and put in the front pocket so I have easy access to pull out and use.
Right.
And I want to decide what I should put in the back pocket to see maybe I might use that later, or what should I just throw over my shoulder and toss out because I don't think it aligns with me and that strategy. You know, it reminds me of, I worked with someone here locally in a program, and they had advised me to go sell the product without the solution. And at first I was like, man, I've just lost it. They just lost integrity, and I'm just, that's not how I operate. And what I realized was, it's okay. That's how they operate. Yeah. And I'm not going to take that information. I'm going to toss that over my shoulder and never use it, because I just can't operate that way. I think preparation bleeds confidence.
Yeah.
And I need the preparation to be confident. So that's what Jim needs. Clearly that person doesn't need that. Whether you think that's ethical sales or not the conversation we're going to have today. You can probably figure out where I stand on that based on what I did with that information. But ultimately, that person has a ton of great information. It just, that didn't work for me. Right. So we're not going to be the person that tells you to sell something when you don't have the fulfillment built. That's not what I'm saying. But we are going to give you advice. We are going to share what's worked with us. But most importantly, we're going to listen before we just predict or, you know, verbal vomit on you what we believe the solution to be. But at the end of the day, you need to make the decision, and you have the power. You know your business better than any of us, right? I can only curate questions and draw from experiences and what I know from a plethora of information in my life, as well as coaching, consulting, and working with so many people who have had success. I'm going to curate that and give it to you, but it's up to you to do with it what you wish.
That's
right.
That's true.
Well, I want Dr. James to kind of talk about our paths, right? Because that sort of leads us into like where we're going. I feel like, you grow up, you've got your parents telling you what to think or do, right? Then you've got teachers telling you what to think or do. And then you work for a corporation and they're telling you what to think or do. A lot of times we don't even know, like, what is my own thought versus what have I been told? How do you help people figure out what their path is to really see what their next best step is and not what those outside influences are all the time?
I learned a long time ago, sometimes as adults, we have to unlearn what we learned as children, And it's not the smack in the face to our parents or our ancestors or our elders to say that they did anything necessarily wrong. But it's just one of those things is that, as you begin to come more into you're fine tuning the engine, you're fine tuning the model. You're becoming more detailed and specific as you begin to go in your goals and your purposes and do the things that, man, you're created to do on this planet. So my thing is that now, just because you don't have the same call as another person may have, they may not understand necessarily where the direction is to point you, but that's okay. They got you to that point. And as you are in that point, now you're able to say, okay, you know what? I need to do a little bit of reconsidering about this. I need to maybe learn another skill set. I might need to bring in a Rachel or a Jim or whoever to kind of help show me something about that avenue or aspect of life. And that's what we call the journey of you. Everybody's journey is unique. Nobody's journey is the same. You can use books and we can have great informational sessions and speakings and things along those lines. But it's when you get quiet and you start figuring out what is working and what is not, that is the important portion of it. We always like to talk about this term called intimacy, and we use it in a sexual nature, a sexual preference. But intimacy also is intimate. You see, also knowing how the machine works. A lot of us don't know how our machine works. We don't know how we put thoughts together. We don't know how that trauma affected us. And so as we begin to take those lessons, we begin to dive deeper into where we need to go and become the people we're totally destined to be.
Dropping knowledge over here.
So
Come
good.
on.
That
We're
was
gonna get
so
the zinger
good.
for that one on the soundtrack.
That was so great. Well, because it took me such a long time to really understand that I can shift my mindset. I didn't understand that the negative thoughts I can change. And when you say it at first, I totally get it. When you guys are so deep in that low vibration energy and someone says, oh, you can change your negative thoughts into positive. You can do positive affirmation. I understand the feeling of being like, what the are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
I understand that. But I also know what it feels like to be in this space of alignment where I have made those changes, where I focused on mindset and figuring out what my path is, my true path, my path, not the path that somebody gave me.
Right.
It feels amazing over here. It feels amazing over here. And all I can really do, and all any of us can do, is tell you, tap into it. Just tap into it and start to listen to that good voice. Start to listen and feed the good wolf, right? I tell my kids that parable. There's a good wolf on one shoulder and a bad wolf on the other. Which one are you going to feed today?
Right.
It really is up to you. You are the director of your life. You are the creator. And I don't think people understand how they can really, truly impact their own lives. And then you can impact other people, which is like Dr. James, it's what you do every day. And so I love that you've created this world and this community that not only that you give to, but gives back to you and to each other. Talk to me about the importance of a community that can be honest, right? You've cultivated a community of honesty. And I know it's hard. And I know it's hard at first because a lot of people don't know, right? That there you have that energy shift. Talk to me about the importance of cultivating that, because that's really what Jim and I are trying to do and aiming to do.
I think honesty is synonymous with vulnerability. And at some point, we have to be very transparent with who we are.